V01. Chapter 1 War of Two Worlds RM. United States, Earth, Georgia, Fort Benning, Rangers Headquarters, January 27, 2025. First Lieutenant Sarah Rose is walking through the Ranger Headquarters, passing all the other Rangers. She is one of the Ranger logistical officers who help manage Ranger equipment requests, deployment operations, and everything else Rangers need when going into battle or training. Sarah heads into the officer lounge and sees First Lieutenant Charles Johnson, Captain Bailey Robinson, Captain Charles Cassos all sitting there. They are all enjoying their morning breakfast as they laugh at some story. "I see all the boys sitting around while the lady doing your work," she said sarcastically. All three of them look at her and laugh. "Morning, Sarah," Johnson said. "Do you ever sleep? You need to stop coming in so early to do your CO1 work," Charles said. "Sometimes," she replied, and then turns to look at Charles. "And someone has to do it. He rarely leaves his office, and when he is at our staff meetings, he is not mentally there. I feel bad for you guys," Charles said, and then turns to look at Johnson. "They took away your command and replaced it with someone who is not a Ranger. That is the brass for ya," Johnson comments as he shrugs it off. "Come on, guys," Bailey said. "Be nice to the Major." "You always defend him, Bailey," she responds with. "Why is that? It seems like you two know each other. None of this makes sense. He shows up last month out of nowhere, and we rarely see him. Morale is low within the unit." "Sarah's right," Johnson said. "I don't mind having my first command taken away. I just like a reason. I have no idea how a non-Ranger takes command of a Ranger unit." Bailey leans back into his chair, and he responds hesitantly, "I don't know him well, but we did cross paths once. Look, I am not defending the dude. The past month has been very unprofessional. It is just the one time I met him. He wasn't like this." Sarah listens carefully to what Bailey has to say. She comes from a long military bloodline, dating back to the Revolutionary War. She had learned from her father to read people, especially military ones. Sarah thinks back to when their new commanding officer for Vanguard 7, Major Jackson Sharpe, took command last month. At the time, it had shocked everyone in the unit. Almost no one liked him, and he had done little to address it. Sarah wonders if Sharpe wanted everyone to hate him. However, nothing about Sharpe makes sense to Sarah. She had tried to learn more about him and had come up with nothing. Sarah shakes her head, exasperated. "Well, I came here to remind you three that we have a staff meeting at 0910. "Thanks, First Lieutenant," Charles said. As Sarah leaves the door, she hears the three officers making some strange commotion. Then she hears them calling her name. Sarah rushes back and sees them looking at the television. She looks at what they are watching, and her eyes widen in disbelief. Sharpe finishes putting together his Colt M1917 pistol for the third time. It does nothing to distract his troubled mind. He places his pistol back onto his desk. He lets out a soft breath as he glances around his recently assigned private quarters. In one corner, there is a pile of unopened boxes he has yet to unpack, unable to draw the will to touch them. Sharpe looks back to his desk and picks up his Christian cross necklace. He watches it as it spins around slowly. He takes a heavy breath as he watches. "You son of a bitch," Sharpe mutters. Sharpe then tosses his necklace on the desk and places his hand on his head. "Son of a bitch, why?" Sharpe then leans back and looks at the window. Sharpe then hears a loud knock on the door. He looks to the door and glares at it. "I will be at the damn meeting. Christ. Get off your ass, Major, and get out here." Sharpe knows the voice, First Lieutenant Sarah Rose. She had been on his chase since day one, and he does not blame her. He knows he has not been a good example of an army officer, however. He can't help it. He does not want to be here. The worst part is that he respects her, and so he hates himself more when he is rude. Getting up, Sharpe opens the door. "What is it, First Lieutenant?" "Follow me, Major," Sarah states. Philadelphia is under attack. What Sarah had said took him completely off guard. The first possible threat that appears in his head is China. China attacking? They don't have the ability to invade us, especially Philadelphia. Cannot be Canada or the Russians. The United States and China are in the middle of a new Cold War. China has been spreading its influence around the world, spreading its version of authoritarianism, colonizing nearby local populations like in Africa and Central Asia. "I don't think it is China, sir," Sarah states in a concerned tone. "Just follow me." Sharpe leaves his quarters and follows Sarah. The hallways are crowded as Rangers rush to their respective areas, all trying to figure out what is happening. There is no way it is the Russians, he said as he tries to figure out what is going on. They are crazy bastards, but they don't have the abilities to invade the US either. Sarah glances back at him. You say that like you have experience, sir. And no, I don't think it is the Russians either. He glances away a little and ignores the first thing she said, but he can tell that she is on to him. He had worked with many logistical officers and personnel before, but she had been the best he had seen. While most see the position as just a job to do, she is passionate about doing the best she can. When they get to the lounge, he sees almost 24 officers in the room, all eyes glued to the television. Both Bailey and Major Davis Stewart walk over to him as he walks inside. Bailey, Davis, he greets. Nice to see you out of bed, sir, Bailey said with a smirk. What is going on? He asked. Davis looks back to the television. Philadelphia is under attack. Take a look for yourself, because I have no idea how to explain this. He looks at the screen and his eyes widen. He cannot understand what he is seeing, but it is still happening. He sees a camera crew being attacked, murdered, and the female reporter being raped by what looks like a goblin. He sees this large beast that looks like a troll lifts this car and toss it into a crowd of people. Around it are all these monsters rushing around, slaughtering the fleeing civilians. The screen switches to a new live feed. This civilian is behind a police and SWAT, too, with some Minutemen militia behind a defensive line. They are all geared up, trying to provide a safe route for the civilians to escape. In front of the police and SWAT are thousands of men charging at them, all of which wear armor that reminds him of ancient Rome. The police and SWAT open fire, but then a small dragon-looking beast swoops down and forces most of the defenders down to the ground. By the time most of the law enforcement get back up, the swordsmen are on top of them. Police and SWAT are cut down by swords as the attackers clash with the riot-geared police. It looked like the defenders could win, but the live feed looks back down the street and sees another endless wave of swordsmen charging. It does not take long for everyone to be overrun and slaughtered. Look, someone said, the president declared a state of emergency and they are sending in the regular military. Not just the guard. This is a real big deal, another ranger said. He agrees with that statement. In the United States, it is illegal for the regular military to operate domestically. That is the National Guard's responsibility. However, that idea is based on the country not being invaded from within. Sharpe hears the person commenting on what is going on while mentioning that the 10th Mountain Division and the National Guard Unit's 28th and 42nd Infantry Divisions are being mobilized and heading to Philadelphia. The problem is that it will take a few hours for them to get there in force, leaving the local law enforcement and militia alone for the next 2 to 3 hours. He already knows a lot of people are going to die before real help arrives. How is this possible? Sarah asked out loud. Did they fly here? But look, swords. Johnson comments, we are being attacked by swords? This. I don't know. That is when he sees a live feed from a helicopter angle. There is a strange mystical structure at the center of the main street. It is a 3-story tall structure, taking up 5 lanes. Strange-looking pictures and writings decorate the surfaces of the structure. He sees thousands of soldiers still pouring through the gate. Human soldiers with all different kinds of monsters and beasts. The more he sees, the more he realizes these creatures are like the ones from Lord of the Rings. He takes a deep breath as he watches the slaughter on the screen. We are at war, Rangers. Let's get ready. President Emily Potts Address, February 6, 2025. My fellow Americans, as stated before, we still feel for the lives lost during the invasion of Philadelphia. Because of our brave law enforcement and the local militia groups holding off the aliens until the regular army arrived, untold lives have also been saved. The battle was intense, but the military was able to push the invaders back to what we are calling the gate. Our latest count is a total of 10,000 dead from the attack. I know this country has struggled in the recent decade, however, it is time for unity. Today we are not white, black, Hispanic, Asian, liberal, libertarian, or conservative. We all mourn and stand as Americans. As stated before, the enemy who attacked us all matched fantasy-type monsters and humanoids. Our confirmed types are humans, elves, orcs, goblins, trolls, and many more. What we once thought was a fantasy, a made-up story, has proven to be true and alive, but more importantly, hostile. The size of the enemy who attacks has been numbed around 30,000 strong. We have taken about 5,000 prisoners, and a detention center is being set up in Ohio under the control of the National Guard Unit 28th Infantry Division, while the National Guard Unit, the 48th Infantry Division, will be stationed around the gate. Our best scientists are continuing to study this strange and alien device, and all attempts to control or close it has failed. However, our drones have been able to go through it. We have discovered on the other side of the gate is another Earth-like planet. Grass, trees, and sky. However, our recon drones also discovered a large enemy force on the other side of the gate. Currently, they are digging in, but we believe they are planning a second attack. As you already know, there have been 3 separate attacks since the first invasion by this enemy, all on a smaller scale. We believe they were trying to gather intelligence and find out what happened to their army. My fellow Americans and the international community, I will not sugarcoat what is going on. We do not know who these people are. We do not know why they attacked us or what their intentions are. We don't even know what their name is. All we know is this one important fact: we are at war. As people, we always knew we would one day travel to the stars, meet new life, and maybe fight some interstellar war. But we never believed that this would happen in our lifetimes. Unlike all other wars, nations knew who they were fighting. This time we are going to war blind. We are fighting fantasy creatures who use swords, dragons, and God knows what else. But we will meet this challenge. We are a young nation, however. We have faced many challenges, and we always overcome these challenges. We have stood up and defeated every empire we have encountered, and we shall do it again. I have triggered the Monroe Doctrine, which states any foreign threats that attacks the American continents are a threat to the American nations. Last week, I requested Congress to declare war against this new enemy, and they have answered my call. Yesterday, I met with NATO, and we agreed to trigger Article 5, declaring this threat a threat to all in the Western world. I have commitments to our brothers across the Pacific. Australia and Japan have declared they will meet any need we need. With this authorization, we will send American forces through the gate to meet this new threat. With this new world, we will fight this unknown enemy. We will explore. We will make friendly ties with any locals who wish our aid. However, the #1 priority is to prevent a second attack on our world, on our nation. As of now, the United States and the rest of the free world is at war. The War of Two Worlds. God bless America. 3 days later, Sharpe is sitting at the conference seat in Philadelphia in one of the nearby buildings. He thinks back on what the president had said. While he sees that a lot of the Rangers and other soldiers are nervous, all wondering what they will face on the other side of the gate, he feels calm. Inside the conference room are dozens of other Ranger officers, all sitting at seats or standing against the walls. The Ranger leader, Colonel John Young, with the head of Ranger Operations, Lieutenant Colonel Cason Forbes, are standing up in attention. "All right, boys and girls," Young said as he stands up front. "We finally got the go-ahead. Operation Forward Dawn. We are going in with the 2nd Brigade of the 1st Cavalry as special unit support. Our job is to provide support. Colonel Robert Barnes will be in command of the 1st Wave and 2nd Wave. 2nd Lieutenant John from the Vanguard 5 Unit, Captain Bailey, raises his hand. "Colonel, why don't we just go in and give them an ass-kicking? What has been the delay? They have swords and we have guns." Young points to John. "Good question." He nods at the Lieutenant Colonel, Cason. Cason takes a few steps forward. "The problem is that this isn't a traditional war. This information has not been released yet, but we believe the enemy has magical abilities. Besides using swords, they have dragons and trolls and God knows what else. When the president said we are going in blind, we literally are." "Thank you, Cason," Young said. "When 9/11 happened, we were able to find where the enemy was and respond. Same with all the other wars. We are going in with no knowledge of what this land is like. We have no means to know who friend or foe is." After hearing that, he hears someone say that there are only foes and that they deserves a bullet in the head. He looks over to that direction. "Hey, the last thing we need is to shoot someone who could help us." "Major Sharpe is correct," Young said. "I know emotions are high, but the last thing we want to do is shoot a possible ally. We know nothing of these people. In our history, allegiances of villages and towns usually switch to the conqueror. We might be able to use that against the enemy. During the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, We needed local support to find and kill the enemy. Remember, you are Rangers of the United States Army, not some bandits. As he listens, he hears Johnson and Sarah whispering to each other. He can tell they were commenting on what he had said. He glances over and then away. He had gotten used to his team whispering behind his back, showing their lack of trust. Johnson is a black man, which reminds him of his old friend, another black soldier, Avery Hogan, naturally calm and easily approachable. Sarah, on the other hand, he has struggled to understand. She clearly understands more than she lets on. For the first half a month, she clearly hated him like everyone else, but then 4 weeks ago, she suddenly changed her attitude towards him. He has never been good with the opposite sex, but this has puzzled more than ever. If we are going to do this, we need to do it right. Soldiers rushing into battle just for the sake of revenge will only hurt us, he comments. I actually agree with you, Major, Sarah said. Yeah, boss, Johnson adds, we just didn't expect you to say something like that. No offense, but we thought you wouldn't give a damn. He just ignores them and continues listening to the meeting. As stated before, we know nothing of this planet. Young continues, unlike on Earth, we will not have air support, none of our space assets, or any other assets. We will literally have to rely on what we bring until we can build the infrastructure we need. That is why the Joint Chiefs of Staff picked the Rangers to lead the way in this war. To maximize efficiency, Rangers will be split into small 10 to 12-man size units. Kaysen explains, these units will explore this world, make contact with the locals, build alliances, scout for the enemy, and engage them. They will be the flexible muscle the Army needs to wage war against the enemy. The program will be called Vanguard. As you know, you all have already been organized into your Vanguard units. Sharpe got this briefing 5 days ago. As said before, each Vanguard unit will move around behind enemy lines and hunt for the enemy or find friends. This reminds him of the old television show he used to watch, Stargate. Just like the show, the U.S. Air Force would send small teams through this smaller gate to new worlds to do what the Vanguards are doing. He wonders if the military is studying subjects like Stargate, Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, and any other material that might be able to help them understand this new world. As the saying goes, the brass usually plans for the last war. However, how could they plan for a war like this? There is no rule book for this kind of war, and he knows the Army will have to rely on the best judgment of its troops. That is why he thinks the Army picked the U.S. Rangers to lead the way. Rangers are light infantry special forces, some of the most elite soldiers on Earth. They are trained for many different situations, able to adapt and be flexible when needed. All right, everyone, Young said. See you on the other side. As everyone gets up, Sharpe starts heading outside with Johnson and Sarah. Johnson, get everyone ready for the expedition. Once we leave, we will have no idea when we will get resupplied, he orders. Yes, sir, Johnson said, and then rush away. He stops and looks at Sarah. Lieutenant, something wrong? Sarah stops and takes a frustrated breath. I wish I was going with you. Not your role, he replied. Sarah glances up at him. With that tone, anyone would assume you are a sexist. Luckily, I think I know better. I just wish you guys were going more prepared. No time, he said, ignoring the sexist comment. We don't need NW3 or the drones. Either we kick their asses or we die. Sarah looks at him. You might not care if you die, but others do. We might have signed up, but that doesn't mean lives can be wasted blindly. The people under your command want to come home alive. He takes a frustrated breath and works hard to control himself, to the point she notices. He wants to respond but struggles to find the words. Sarah mumbles. She then salutes him. Good luck, Major. He returns the salute and then walks away. He reaches into his chest pouch and takes out some anti-depression pills and takes 2 of them. As he walks, he can see the damage from the invasion. Everything is still fresh. The large tower has holes from missiles, cannons, artillery fire. Buildings still reek with a burnt, charred smell. Even with that pungent, overpowering scent, he can still smell all the blood in the air as if it was freshly spilt. He looks over to the left and sees the Army engineers clearing out destroyed buildings, making way to set up defenses and other Army facilities. He stops and walks around this small crater in the street. These streets were intense battlegrounds. While the Army was able to quickly push the enemy back within a day, It was a bloody battle. The only reason the army was able to stop that large of a force was because they had far superior weapons than the enemy. However, because the US still did not know what they were fighting, it cost many unnecessary lives. Once he gets to his unit, Vanguard 7, he sees them all finish loading up supplies into the two M2 Bradleys. While the Bradley is a tough infantry fighting vehicle, able to provide much-needed fire support for infantry, they can only carry half of a squad, unlike the Stryker family of armored personnel carriers. However, the Army wants the first wave to go in with heavily armored vehicles, because they would not know what they will face. He sees his unit, First Lieutenant Charles Johnson, his second in command. He sees his highest NCO, 4, Sergeant Major Randy Dodson. Out of everyone here, Dodson is the only other soldier who has combat experience. So Sharpe knows he will have to rely on him in combat until the other Rangers gain some combat experience. Sharpe sees his unit, smaller than most other Vanguard teams as the program is still new and being organized. According to their files, all have passed Ranger School within the past year or two. The unit medic, Specialist Jerry William, Private Second Class Marvin Scott, the team heavy weapons support, Corporal Andrew Steele, the team marksman and squad leader, and the team radio operator and female soldier, Private First Class Alicia Moore. Attention, Randy orders. All of them stop what they are doing and stand at attention. At ease, he said. He sees them all standing there. While they are all standing there in a professional manner, respecting the rank, he can see that none of them respect him. He knows that they all would rather have Johnson lead them into battle. The reason he did not want to be here with the Rangers had nothing to do with them. He has served with Rangers before like Captain Bailey, and he has nothing but respect for them. The truth is, he does not feel worthy to lead them, but he knows he cannot tell them. He takes a breath and looks at them all in the eyes. All right, Rangers, listen up. I know we didn't get off on the best of terms. However, that ends right now. This was supposed to be a temporary assignment, but that is not acceptable. We are going to war against an unknown enemy. He continues. I will be giving it my all, and I expect you all to do the same. I know you all want to get some payback and everything around the gate is considered hostile, but remember, we do not know these people, so do not kill civilians. He stops for a moment to let them think. I don't know how many of you are religious, but some say this is the gateway to hell. I personally agree with those people. This door, or whatever it is, a portal to hell, and we are going to bring hell with us. Load up and let's go. Other side of the gate. The ride through the gate took hours. He can tell everyone is nervous as reality sets in. He looks over to Andrew. Steele, Sharpe said. From what I understand, you are into this fantasy stuff. Andrew looks at him with some confusion. Sorry, sir. Scott elbows Andrew's shoulder with a smirk. You should see his quarters, sir. He has anime girls everywhere. Some are not decent. Shut up, Marvin, Andrew said. Don't call me Marvin, Scott said. I hate my first name. Andrew looks back to him. Well, yeah, I am into manga and fantasy. Played a lot of Magic, Scrolls, The Witcher, manga, anime, you name it. Cool, he said. Saw a lot of that in Japan. I know a little, but if I have questions, I will ask you. You a nerd, sir? Andrew asked in a shocked tone. He looks back to Andrew and reaches into his vest pouch. He pulls out a small but thick Optimus Prime with a big head. What is that? Scott asked, confused. Optimus Prime, man, Andrew asked. Leader of the Autobots from Transformers. I never expected you to be a fan. Great. Alicia mumbles. The Major is a jackass and a nerd. He ignores Alicia and puts the toy away. I bring it everywhere. As they talk, he hears the driver tell him that he could see light at the end of the gate. He looks around and signals everyone to get ready. Right when the Bradley exits the gate, he can hear the first assault wave convoy open fire. The sound of cannon and rifle fire can be heard out loud outside as the M1A3 Abrams, M2 Bradleys, and Strykers open fire. First Cav soldiers and Rangers get out of their vehicles and engage the enemy. The autocannon from the M2 Bradley they are in opens fire. He suddenly hears a loud impact against the armor. What was that? Alicia asked, looking up in a nervous way. We are okay, right? They only have spears. He looks over to her. It's probably a ballista that deflected across the armor. Stay focused, Rangers. The Bradley stops and the back door opens, forming a ramp to let his team outside. Similarly, Other M2 Bradleys, M1126 30mm strikers, and M1283 EMPV-4 offload their own troops. "All right, Rangers, payback. Engage at will and cover your sectors," he said over his team radio. While they do not have NW's full abilities, like using the HUD and cameras, he can still use the local radio to communicate with his team. It is quiet over the team radio network as everyone is excited and nervous at the same time. Most of his team had never seen combat until today. A billion things go on through everyone's head, at least until that first bullet is fired. However, the army trains its soldiers to be ready for the real thing, and most of the people in charge are experienced warriors from the War on Terror. Everyone rushes out of their vehicles and heads to the emerging front line. He can see Randy keeping everyone in line, so no one leaves the group. He can see Vanguard 5 to his left flank and Charlie Company from 1st Cav to his right. He moves past an M1A3 Abram, firing its main cannon into a line of enemy soldiers, using anti-personnel rounds. He sees about a dozen of the line formations suddenly get shattered. The soldiers around them stop in position, wondering what had just happened. He stops as he passes a trench and fires his M4A1, killing 2 archers. He looks down at the dead bodies and sees 2 humans. He finds the sight strange, being in an alien world, and yet he is killing humans. While the other aliens like orcs and elves make a little more sense, humans completely throw any logic out the door. He hears rifles and machine gun fire. To his right, he sees Alicia, Andrew, and Scott walk up after having cleared the trench. "First trench secured, sir," Alicia said. Sharpe nods. "Tell Johnson to regroup and order Bailey to secure the other end of the trench. I don't want these bastards sneaking up behind us." He then looks out and adjusts his next-generation night vision goggles, the AN/PSQ-25. Unlike old equipment where the soldier had to choose either night vision or thermal goggles, the AN/PSQ-20 merges both goggles into one and removes the green color in old night vision goggles. This allows the wearer to find his targets faster. The brass believed that the best chance for success was if the first wave of the attack took place at night, while using thermal and night vision to their advantage against the enemy. He sees rows and rows of fortifications, trenches, bunkers, and behind all that are enemy artillery. He sees fireballs and flame arrows moving through the air, heading to the U.S. location. A soldier gets hit by an arrow, and his buddies start dragging him back. Another M1A3 Abrams drives up and stops, firing its 120mm cannon with the other tanks. Their combined fire obliterates the fortification and watchtowers. He then sees at his ballista shot fire from a bunker. Inside, it looks like a Scorpio, according to the quick history lesson of possible weapon systems they might find. Around the Scorpio are men dressed in Roman-like armor. However, behind them is a larger, stronger beast loading it. While he has no idea what that beast is, he knows it is the enemy. His goggles identify 5 targets around the ballista. He notices about 30 more all around the fortification around the Scorpio, coming out of their positions to attack. Targets in range. Engage the closest one's closet. Don't let them get close, he orders. He sees Private First Class Alicia and Specialist Jerry on his left open fire on the incoming legions. "Sergeant Major, get a rocket into that bunker." Scott and Andrew, suppressive fire. He sees this rocket hit the bunker, destroying the Scorpio. He takes his rifle and fires into the incoming swordsman as the enemy marches forward. The rest of his rangers engage the incoming force and pick it apart. .50 caliber machine guns from the strikers and Bradleys mop up the rest. He is impressed by the enemy's discipline even in the face of impossible odds. Regardless of how many of their numbers fall, they continue to regroup and resume pressing their attack unyieldingly. If the American forces only had swords, he could see this unknown enemy as a major threat. Thankfully, firearms nullified the primitive's tenacity. As he finishes securing the first defensive line, he notices how tight the enemy infantry formation is. It reminds him of the Earth's ancient world on how the Romans triplex aces, or the Greek phalanx formation. When he learned how less advanced the enemy was, he made sure to do some basic research. Noticing this, he orders his riflemen to aim at the flanks of the enemy formation. He then directs his gunner Scott to aim for the center. The troops in the enemy formation compact closer together as they see the soldier falling next to them. That just made it easier for Scott to spray the enemy down. With the combination of his team, the machine guns on the tanks, And the hundreds of other U.S. soldiers in the area of the first enemy defense line fell with ease, and the task force continued pushing towards the second defensive line. He can hear on the radio that the second wave has arrived and is securing the flanks, offloading more Rangers and 1st Cav soldiers. In the chaos of battle, he hears these loud roars through the rifle and cannon fire. He looks and sees these trolls charging up the hill and heading to their position. Seeing the threat, 2 tanks aimed and engaged the incoming trolls. Focused fire destroys the trolls and other tall monsters within seconds. Over the team radio, he hears Colonel Robert. All troops, the first wave secured. Establish a perimeter for the strikers. Watch out for the enemy artillery. It looks like fireballs. Rangers secure the left flank. Bravo Company establishes a defensive line up front until the second wave arrives. As he listens, he raises and fires his rifle, taking out a soldier that was running up towards them. He then hears Johnson, "Be advised, their armor is useless. Aim for their hard points." Roger that. Move left and form a line. He orders his team. As he said that, a fireball hits the ground close by him. He then starts to move along with his Rangers. All around him, he sees other soldiers of the assault force fighting, covering their tanks and other armored vehicles. Another fireball lands on top of an M1A3 Abrams tank, engulfing it in flames. The tank suffers no damage from the strike and fires its cannon at a line of enemy soldiers, destroying the first 3 lines in the formation with 1 canister shot. His Rangers, other Rangers, and other army soldiers all form a line up on the left flank. Through the night vision goggles, they saw 2,000 enemy soldiers marching up the hill towards them. He sees Johnson ahead of him, giving orders for everyone into a firing line. They all take cover by wooden fortifications, firing down the hill into the oncoming crowd. It seems like an endless wave of soldiers continue pressing forth even as they drop down dead. Sharpe waves to his team to move forward. They move through all the dead bodies that litter the ground. It got the point where he had to pay more attention to the ground just to make sure he doesn't trip. He gets right beside Johnson and kneels. He sees his team regroup with the rest of Vanguard, 7, and join in the engagement. Sit Rep Lieutenant. Johnson looks at him. 1st Cav Alpha and Delta Company along that flank there. Vanguard teams 3 and 5 are right down this path here. He looks around. He sees Alicia and Andrew duck from arrow fire. Seems like it was wise to attack at night. Yeah, Johnson replied. It seems they can't aim at night. He peeks over the wood wall. He sees the enemy in pure chaos. The once organized line formations are scattered. The superior ranged weapons of the Americans prevent them from getting any closer to use their swords. He sees the bigger beast, which has been identified as trolls. However, he has no idea what the other giant one with horns is called. It did not matter as a tank round shredded the beast. He sees the next objective, which is the next line of fortification. He looks back to Johnson. All right, we are moving down. He then looks past Johnson. Private 1st Class Moore. Get the horn and tell the other teams we are advancing. Sergeant Major Randy Dodson rushes up to his side. Sir, I think there are enemy forces at the tree line. He then points over to their left at the thick tree line. It looks like cavalry. Sharpe pulls out his digital binoculars and switches to night vision. Where? All I see are infantry. Oh, there. Holy shit. Yeah, it looks like a battalion size, maybe more, Randy said. Looking through his own binoculars, Sharpe looks around and thinks about what's going on. It looks like the enemy cavalry is trying to counterattack the U.S. advance and push the U.S. back through the gate. While the U.S. has far superior firepower, the current U.S. force is only 2,000 with another 3 still coming. He knows if their cavalry reaches and hits the U.S. lines now, the casualties will be high and the invasion might be jeopardized. He grabs his radio contacts Alicia through the NW team network to report to him. Within seconds, Alicia rushes over. Sir, contact Actual and tell Colonel Robert that I need the second wave over here now. Cavalry inbound, he said. Alicia nods and contacts the colonel. Assault Actual, this is Vanguard 7 to Task Force Charlie Command. We have enemy cavalry on our flanks, battalion size. Requesting support or we're overrun. Alicia reports. There is a short delay in the network. Vanguard 7, this is Assault Actual. 2 striker platoons from the second wave are inbound to your position. Do not let the enemy in the perimeter. Sir, strikers inbound. Colonel said to hold the line. Alicia reports. Hearing that, He looks up past the wood wall. He then sees hundreds of horsemen bursting out of the tree line and charging up the hill. They pass the trees and move quickly towards them. He looks around and points to the firing line. Rangers, hold the line. Aim for the horses. He hopes that hitting the horses would knock over the horsemen next to them, creating more chaos. Everyone maintains a constant fire, raining bullets at the incoming cavalry. However, the enemy cavalry is moving so fast and there are so many. They are about 2/3 of a kilometer away until a few blasts hit the leading forces. He feels the ground rumbling and turns around. He sees parts of the third wave move up behind his position. First Cav soldiers start pouring out of the backs of the Bradleys and Strykers. Heavy fire support from the Bradleys and Strykers rain down on the incoming cavalry. 50 caliber MK-47 Stryker grenade launcher, missiles, and 30mm chain guns begin to rain down on the enemy. The infantry rushes up to the Rangers' position and engages the enemy. As the left flank is reinforced, hundreds of American soldiers let loose with everything they have down at the incoming cavalry. All they can see is the massive horde of horses charging. It would be impossible to miss. The barrage of American firepower rips through the first and second lines of the enemy formation. After only a few minutes concentrated fire support, the first few lines of enemy cavalry are wiped out. The ones in the back begin retreating, trying to get away before they get slaughtered. It looks like the left flank has been secured. He hears over the radio on what is going on the other fronts. Third assault wave is engaging now. Have the 3rd Armored Platoon Guard, Abrams, begin bombardment of the enemy positions. Take out their artillery. Hillside, Assault Actual said. Suddenly, they all see 3 tanks aim for the hillside a kilometer away. He can see fires on the hill, where the enemy forward operating base presumed to be. Massive explosions rip enemy artillery pieces apart. Flames suddenly engulf the large towers and wooden fortress. This is Assault Lead to all commands. Move out and engage. The enemy has retreated, but do not let up. Secure the gate, Roberts said. Hearing that, he gets up and walks up the defense line, points to everyone and orders them all to move forward. Stay behind the vehicles and engage. Move up and secure that tree line. A mixture unit of Strykers, Abrams, Bradleys, and other vehicles move up, steamrolling any remaining enemy lines. The infantry and Rangers begin to mop up anyone else who tries to fight back. At that moment, he turns around and looks out. All he can see are the flashes from his fellow American forces' weapons. Fires everywhere from here to the nearby hills, where he assumes the enemy artillery has been. The screams of the enemy, either wounded or fleeing. He realizes that this is what this war will be like. In an alien world, fighting an unknown enemy against many different types of mysteries, races, and most of all, the unknown. V01. Chapter 2 Brave New World RM. Sadera, Royal District, Imperial Senate Chambers, February 17, 2025. Senator Kiso ID Taiwali is standing in the middle of the Senate chambers, engaging in the large debate that is happening on the floor. Being one of the most senior and powerful senators and coming from a long noble family line, he has the right to be at the center stage. What do you mean they are all dead? Senator Uros das Dardanus said, shocked by the news of what happens on Alus Hill. What about General Ullerdan? According to the messenger, General Ullerdan has fallen. Taiwali reads the note to the Senate. He was one of our best generals. We need to investigate the current situation. Casel L. Tiberius proposes. We need to find out how the enemy killed General Ullerdan and his army. When he reads the note, he automatically knows it is not good. About a month ago, the Empire sent many of its greatest generals to claim the lands beyond the gate in the name of the Empire. After they went through the magical gate, only a few came back. At first, the news sounded great. Many riches and slaves were taken. That was what the first report stated. It sounded like the humans on the other side of the gate were weak and inferior. New lands and new slaves, just ready to be taken. But then no one heard anything from the advance force. The new survivors who returned claimed the invasion force was slaughtered, shocking the Imperial Senate. The situation around the gate became strange as no one knew what to do. A few smaller warbands were sent to see what had happened to the main force, but none of them returned either too. It was decided to send another army, a far larger one, through the gate. But the enemy came through and smashed the defenders. About 1/10 of the Imperial Army was sent to guard the gate and prepare for war. Investigate, Cicero Lamoltos asked angrily. We need to act. A dishonor like this cannot go unpunished. No one does this to the Empire and gets away with it. And don't forget about our vassals. Amulius Palestus points out, if we don't act fast, then our vassals might betray us. There is no way we can keep this a secret. Baron Monterey states, everyone in the region will know. The question is how we respond. He nods at what Baron had said, another respected senator. Baron always is careful about how he respects, understanding the power of silence. However, even he is rattled by this news. We should send an embassy to these other worlders, he proposes. We clearly do not understand this enemy enough to continue to wage war. You are kidding, Tywali? We must send a counterattack right now. A defeat like this must not be leave unchallenged. Oras responds in an arrogant tone. This is war, not a game. We must send a force now and reclaim revenge our honor. He sees most of the senators clap and cheers for the proposal to send a counterattack against the other worlders. Only a few senators don't, and his most trusted friend, Tiberius, lightly claps. While he isn't against wars, he doesn't like the idea of sending more troops to die against an enemy that is clearly stronger than they were told. Are you kidding? He asked. Who are we going to send? This is the second army to challenge these people and be defeated. Should we pull our forces from the east and let the dark races run rampant rampage? Recall from the west? Our army just defeated the Edra Kingdom, and it will take weeks for a wyvern to reach them and then months for the western armies to come back. This enemy is far stronger than we were promised, and we can't let the Ticaret dogs take advantage of our withdrawal from the west. Baron adds, we need to do this right. A short argument begins among the senators, clearly showing that the Senate is divided on what to do. The Empire has been around for over 600 years and has been through many crises, civil wars, and near defeats. But the Empire always finds a way to bounce back and slaughter its enemies. Some want to reclaim Alus Hill and enslave these people who dare put up a fight against the Empire. Another group wants to do nothing, it seems, while another wants to negotiate. Others try to figure out the logistics, and others are scared of what their other enemies might do. Emperor Multigustus stands up from his throne. Everyone, please calm down. This is not a crisis. The Empire has endured far worse. We will overcome this challenge, and we will become victorious. Many applaud him, but one of them steps out of the crowd. My liege, he said, if this letter is correct, then our mightiest weapons couldn't even stop one of theirs. 100,000 dead in a night. One of our greatest and most respected generals was killed. We must assume the other 20,000 soldiers we sent through the gate are dead. While this is only a dent in the Imperial Army, I don't see pulling troops from other fronts to deal with an enemy we know nothing about to be possible. I have to agree with Senator Tywali here, Palesti said. The issue isn't the losses we have sustained, but that our core legions have been slaughtered. It will take time to rebuild our core legions and recall the frontier legions. Emperor Molt laughs at that point. If that is all you are worried about, then we will call on our vessels. Send word to all the kingdom and lords that their emperor calls upon them for war. That will give us the numbers and time we need. He then sits back down on his throne. Very well, Your Highness, he said. He then hears Marcus Catulus, the Senate chamber managerial. His responsibility is to represent the emperor and to maintain order on the Senate floor. This Senate order is dismissed for today. Marcus yells. We will meet again tomorrow to continue the topic of the war. As the senators leave the chamber halls, Princess Pina Colada walks past them all. She had just heard about the recent defeat beyond the gate and the defeat at Alus Hill. Hearing that news has angered her, and she cannot accept such a humiliation. She stops seeing Senators Kiso Id Tywali, Cicero Lamoltos, and Casel L. Tiberius talking. Senators, she said. She sees the three lightly bow, acknowledging her royalty. Hello, Your Highness, Tywali said. What brings you to the Senate? I just heard about our defeats, she said. I want to know how this is possible and what we are doing about this. We are regrouping right now, Cicero said. We need time to rebuild our core legions, so our southern vassals have been called upon. She thinks about that and smiles. King Duran. I only heard his glorious stories about his time on the battlefield. It will be an honor to see him fight. I am sorry, Princess, but your father will never allow you to go to the front lines, Casel said. She looks up at him. Casel is one of the most principled and respectable senators she has ever met. His opinion has great value to her, and she knows what he means by that statement. It is because I am a woman, right? She asked, already knowing the answer. Of course, Princess, Cicero said. I know of your Rose Knights. They're almost all noble women. War is the realm of men, not women. I know you think it is glorious. However, on the battlefield, all you will see is blood and our fallen. Her mentor and teacher, Greco Aldo, had said that many times. Even so, she still wants to go fight on the battlefield, lead troops into battle, and hear people tell stories of her glory, just like the war heroes and knights who come back from war do. I won't stand by as the Empire is losing a war, she said. I thank all three of you, but it is my destiny to lead warriors into battle, to serve my country. I will not let this opportunity pass me. Good day, senators. As the three senators leave, she turns around. Hamilton, hurry up. Coming, Hamilton said as she runs up. She turns around and walks into the Senate chambers and sees her father sitting on the throne talking to Senator Marcus and General of Army Woody Carelius. Father, she yells, this is an outrage, father. I demand to join forces with King Duran and help lead the counterattack. Molt looks down at her and chuckles at her boldness. He then rolls his eyes. Every time there is a problem, you come in here and demand to be sent off. She stops after hearing that. Yes. But this time it is a real crisis, and we need as many knights and soldiers on the front lines. Stay calm, my child, Molt said. We are taking care of this. These intruders will be dealt with shortly. Father. Molt glares right at her with a disapproving look. She adjusts herself and kneels. My apologies, my emperor. I am just frustrated on how this could have happened. Molt nods with approval. They are from the other side of the gate. I have called upon our vessels for help. As she listens to her father, she thinks about when she created her Rose Order of Knights a few years ago. The Rose Order of the Knights is an honor guard of young female soldiers and retired men too old for actual battle. She has been asking for a real test of her order's worth. This war could be a good opportunity. She just hopes she can go to war and prove to all the men that she belongs here in this Senate chamber to be respected as a war hero like her bastard of a brother, Zorzal El Caesar. She is scared that she wasted her and her knights' time training if they never get to be used. Father, she said, please, I want this. We all want this. You need us to fight, to bring honor, at least until the main force can regroup. Molt looks at her. Woody whispers something into his ear and he smirks. We have a plan to take back Alus Hill, however. I think your honor guard could help. There is a spark of excitement in her eyes when she hears that. She has been waiting for years to prove her worth, and now the chance has arrived. We will serve the Empire with honor. Thank you, Father. Go and protect our interests from the enemies, and make sure our subjects don't rise against us. She nods her head and heads out. Princess Pina Colada walks down the hall and heads to the royal stables to grab her horse. Come on, Hamilton, she said. We need to hurry. Shouldn't we wait for the others? Hamilton said with a worried tone. Just listen to me and hurry, she responds. We have a golden opportunity here, and I will not pass it up. Hamilton is Pina's personal servant. Her father is a nobleman from Telta. He had given her Hamilton when they were both very young, so she is someone she can depend on. Anything she wants or needs, Hamilton provides. While being a servant that is just above a slave, Hamilton has proven to be the most loyal servant she has ever had. She has been the only servant that has been able to keep up. She cannot imagine life without her by her side. Since the day she created the Rose Order of Knights, she has been waiting to prove herself in battle. She has always wanted to show her father and her two older brothers that she isn't just some princess that can be married off to some backwater kingdom. She wants to be seen as a respectable warrior of the Empire. Pina leaves the palace and enters the royal stables. There she sees her mentor, Greco Aldo, and best friend and most loyal captain, Bozes Co Palesti. Bozes rushes up and gives her a tackle hub. We did it. You did it. We are finally going into battle. Do not get too excited, Bozes, Gray said. From the reports, the enemy seems strong. I fought for General Ullerdan, and he isn't easily defeated. Bozes laughs and looks at him. You have become a worrier in your old age, Gray. The only thing I am worried about is us missing out before the Imperial Army and the Allied coalition storm the hill. Yeah, Gray, she said with a smile. I am sorry for the general. He was respected here in Sadera, but we are finally going into battle. Now I will prove myself. I will be treated with the respect I deserve. She thinks about when she comes back from battle, walking into the senator floor and being cheered as a hero. People will love and respect her, retaking lost territory and crushing the new enemy from the gate. I understand, Princess, Gray said. It is good to be excited, but don't let that control you. The first matter of business is, what is the plan? She places her hand on her chin and thinks, plan? I will go to Italica and establish a staging area there. There, I will gather the needed supplies while the rest of the Rose Order of Knights rally up. She then looks to Boses. Boses, get Beefeater and gather all the knights. Meet up at Italica as soon as you can. But Princess, Hamilton said, from what I understand, the Imperial army at Alnus was wiped out. Boses laughs hearing that. She places her arm around Hamilton and pulls her close. Silly one. I don't believe that. Did I hear the same rumors and a full army? Come on. It is true. Hamilton continues. The senators seem worried enough to call on our vassals. King Duran and the other vassals are attacking from the south. Even if they did defeat the army, we are the Empire. Boses said. Gray, your thoughts? Gray places his hand on his chin. That was an interesting report. I would guess maybe the army suffered many losses, but the idea of 100,000-strong force being entirely wiped out seems to be too far-reaching. I bet it is a translation error or a misunderstanding by the scribe who wrote it. It could be a panicking commander overreacting. However, Boses is correct. Hamilton, Gray continues, the Empire has lost battles before, even devastating ones. But the Empire has always come back to win in the end. We will beat this enemy, but we must be smart about it. Pina places her hands on her sides. See, Hamilton, nothing to fear. We need to hurry and join our comrades. Glory to the Empire. Princess, Gray said, I recommend we bring Norm with us. For extra protection on the way to Italica. She looks at Gray and frowns. Norm is a great swordsman, one of the Rose Knights' best, but he is a ladies' man, flirting with all the female knights. He is known to sleep around a lot wherever he goes. Pina relents at that advice. Fine. But he is going to want to stop at a brothel on the way to Italica. She pulls out her sword and holds it up. For the Empire, we charge. Outskirts of Alus Hill, Keelberry Woodland Forest, February 28, 2025. Sharpe hears the M1296 Dragoon Striker firing its 30mm Bushmaster turret into the enemy position. First cavalry soldiers swarm the area as they continue fiercely engaging the enemy. Johnson, take Scott and Jerry and move left, he orders. Secure that ditch. Everyone with me. As he runs with his team behind him, he thinks back on the past few days. The night invasion lasted only 90 minutes with another 2 hours of mop-up. Once the battle was over and when the sun rose over the distant mountains to the east, he and everyone saw the thousands upon thousands of dead bodies everywhere. Bodies on top of bodies, the once green grass now covered in blood. After securing the gate on this alien world, some of the prisoners confessed the name of the hill the U.S. is occupying. They called it Alus Hill. They said that after their failed invasion, they built fortifications around the gate and were gathering another army to invade. This time, a 100,000-man force. The only reason their second invasion did not happen was because that the U.S. attacked first. While he was not in those meetings, his logistical officer Sarah did the math. If there were over 100,000 soldiers around Alnus and the number of dead bodies they found, that meant that the U.S. had killed at least 80%, maybe 90% of the enemy force. American forces only sustained about 5 casualties and 7 wounded in the attack. Sharpe wonders if that will become the norm in this war. After the U.S. crushed the enemy army, some of the enemies retreated into the countryside. They did not want to give the enemy a chance to regroup and counterattack. 3 cavalry companies with a vanguard unit were sent out in different directions to secure the surrounding area while the main force built defenses on Alnus Hill. Sharpe stops by a tree and sees the rest of his team do the same. Over the radio, he hears 1st Cavalry Charlie Company advancing on the enemy. Their job is to push the enemy into one location by putting pressure on them. His vanguard team is supposed to bite at the enemy from the sides, preventing them from escaping, and then call in long-range artillery. Major, Andrew yells, 15 swordsmen forming up. He sees past the tree and sees the 15 Imperial soldiers forming up. He can see that they are trying to prevent them from advancing further. Andrew and Alicia each fire at the flanks. Squeeze them right. Scott mowed them down. Engage, he orders. Sharpe raises his rifle and fires, taking out the soldier with the fancy helmet which he assumed was the leader. Andrew and Alicia maintain a constant fire, picking off soldiers from each end. Scott fires his M240 machine gun. The 7.62 by 51 mm NATO cartridge rounds tears through the enemy shields and armor like they are made out of paper. He hears a firefight happening to his left and sees Johnson's team engaging a charging enemy force. Just like with the ones he was fighting, they all fell dead before getting close. Rangers advance, he yells. He gets up from his position and rushes forward. His Rangers are all around him, passing by the fresh corpses. In the distance, he sees a large stone tower. Major, Johnson said over the radio. Randy is reporting that he sees the main enemy encampment. Roger, he replied. I see a tower. Hold up here and engage. Calling in artillery. Regroup together and engage. He sees everyone stopping at the tree line and taking cover. As they approach, arrows hit close to them. Their weapon noises must have warned them. His Rangers did not need any orders. They are some of the best the United States Army has to offer. They are trained to already know what to do, and to do it efficiently. He sees the enemy trying to form up. Just like before, he sees one high-ranking man rallying everyone around him. Hundreds of these swordsmen form up behind their shields for protection. Hundreds of them start to march to his position. He aims his rifle and shoots. The 5.56 by 45 mm NATO round easily goes through the shield and armor, systematically mowing them down like grass. The other soldiers around stop in shock. They are confused that their shields are so easily defeated as more of their comrades fall. Then suddenly, he sees a blue energy ball appear out of the tower and heads for Charlie Company. What the hell was that? Jerry asked. Do they have lasers? Scott yells in dismay. Keep your focus on the enemy, Randy orders. If you get distracted, we will be overrun. He looks over to Randy and is glad he is on top of things, a sign of his experience from the Iraqi War. However, Jerry and Scott asked a good question. Alicia rushes up and kneels next to him. Sir, I have Major Bronston on the line. He grabs the radio from Alicia, his team radio operator. Major Bronston, this is Vanguard League, he said. Major, Bronston said, Captain Jace Baker just said one of his strikers got hit by this energy plasma bolt. That is how he described it. The front end of the striker is damaged and melted. Do you have eyes on it? He looks back at the tower. He could not believe that the energy bolt could damage a striker. While not the most armored APC the Army has, it is still well protected. We saw the blast, he replied. It came from a stone tower within the camp. We are trying to figure out what it is. He then sees light coming from the top of the tower again, and another energy bolt comes out, this time in bursts. It looks like they have a plasma cannon or some kind of advanced laser technology. Permission to speak, sir? Andrew asked. Just focus on the enemy, Corporal, he orders. But sir, Andrew presses. I think I know what that is. He looks to Andrew, wondering what he is thinking. Stand by, Major. Sharpe then looks at Andrew. What is it, Corporal? Well, I think it is magic, Andrew said. Alicia looks at Andrew. You're bullshitting. You actually believe that report? Scott looks over. Magic is not real. That is all bullshit. We know nothing about these people. That's probably some kind of heat-reflecting technology or something. I mean it, Andrew said. I've seen this stuff before. In your anime? Alicia said. You watch too much of that stuff. And what? Andrew continues, getting annoyed. Fighting elves and humans on an alien planet with trolls is more realistic to you? What Andrew said shut everyone up, and he must admit, Andrew made a very convincing statement. Sharpe motions for the soldier to continue. All right, Andrew, explain. Andrew turns around and looks at him. As I said, I see that all the time. It is an energy bolt. It is a basic energy attack from a mage. I bet anything that it's it. The Major thinks about the idea and thinks about it. Right now, they know nothing of this world, and anything can be possible. If everything else seems like a standard fantasy world, then why not magic? Even though that should not be possible. Major Bronston, he said over the radio, we believe we discovered a magic user using magic attacks against your advancing force. Permission to take it out. Magic user? Bronston asked, doubtful. That stuff is real? All right, You have permission to call in the rain. Roger, he replied and looks at Alicia. Take out the tower more. Alicia nods and calls base. Command, this is Vanguard League. Requesting artillery support. This is command. Request accepted. Sarah said, 2M 1299 1 are on standby. Firing single shot. He sees Alicia relay the coordinates to Sarah, and then he hears the loud zoom of a single artillery shell. The shell lands and hits close to the tower. Alicia, adjust fire right, he orders. He then hears the whoosh of more artillery shells flying over. A fierce fireball engulfs the tower but does not level the fortifications. As the fire clears, he sees a green, translucent sphere encompassing the tower like some kind of strange energy shield. This prevents the first shell from damaging the tower. However, the bombardment does not let up and hits the shield a few more times until it cracks, and the last of the volley pierces through and destroys the tower. Stones from the tower scatter everywhere, destroying many of the makeshift buildings around it. Enemy soldiers scream, running away scared and confused about what had just happened. He hears Alicia adjusting the artillery again to be more effective. A rain of ordnance hits enemy positions, groups, and any other targets of interest. The enemy's once disciplined formation suddenly shatters as none of them understand what is hitting them. He hears Andrew call out, saying he sees Charlie Company arriving. He looks over and sees 6 different kinds of strikers with 3 Bradleys push right through a dense part of the forest and smash through a small palisade wall. They all open fire and crush the 1,000-strong enemy forces. Tow missiles fire from the Bradleys, hitting larger targets. The Sol M1128 mobile gun system stops and aims its 105mm cannon and fires, destroying another major enemy formation. Hundreds of 1st Cav infantry follow behind and start advancing on the enemy, putting intense pressure. He sees the enemy break ranks and start trying to run away. They do not get far while under the combined fire from the Rangers, Charlie Company, and the artillery. Damn, Andrew said. I think damn is an understatement, Scott replied. He looks at Scott and back at the M1128 mobile gun system. The 105mm cannon had melted off after that magic shot from the tower. Both of them are surprised that a primitive enemy took out an MGS striker. While the body of it is still intact, its primary weapon is gone. I guess magic is effective against our armor, he states. Clearly, Scott replied, but it is a striker. I'd like to see them burn through the armor of a Bradley or Abram. We will see, he said and thinks. If magic is real in this world, then it could be limitless. Depending on what kind of fantasy world this is, he turns around and looks back to the fortress that was just taken. The fact that we only saw one spell means that magic is maybe hard to learn. And did you see? Whoever that mage was knew different spells. He thinks back to that tower. First, that mage used energy to attack Charlie's company advance, damaging 2 strikers. When Alicia brought down artillery, the mage formed a green energy shield, and it took until the 3rd shell to break through it. Growing up, he had read many manga and played many games, so he is struggling to accept that what was once made up is now reality. He had been trying to think of a clear example of what media or story this world relates most to, but cannot come up with one single example. The closest one he can think of are Lord of the Rings films. Even so, there are still many differences. What kind of magic do you think we will face? Scott asked. Andrew shrugs at Scott. I have no idea. That one example isn't enough for me to judge. But there are many kinds of magic, so we should be careful. That is exactly what the Major said, Johnson said as he walks up. Hey LT, he said. What is going on? The last of the enemy has been defeated, Johnson said. These people don't like to surrender. I wonder if they are scared to surrender to us, or if it's part of some zealot warrior code. Anyway, Johnson said, I was just talking to the Major, and he would like you to make a list of media that have good examples of magic and this style of warfare. Andrew looks at Johnson, confused. Sir, I am not a history buff guy. I don't read military novels, and I don't know any textbook related to magic. We just discovered it. I meant your manga and anime shows, Johnson said. While the rest of us sat on our asses trying to figure what was going on, Sharpe was impressed, and now he wants to binge everything you know. You're kidding? He asked, surprised to hear that. I guess I can give him a list. He then looks back at the striker, because if this was our first encounter with magic, we haven't seen anything. He then hears Alicia over the radio. "What is it?" "You guys want to come and see this," Alicia said. "Did she finally find a date?" Scott said, jokingly. "I heard that, you jackass," Alicia yelled over the net. "We are on our way," Johnson said. All three of them walk over to Alicia, passing many still cooling bodies. All of them were humans, surprisingly enough. The attack on Philadelphia had far more strange monsters, all from fantasy stories. But when they took Alnus and took this camp, they had only seen humans, and that is confusing him. The brass thought all these different races were one big, unified force, but now, that theory turned out to be wrong. He wonders if the relations between the races are different and segregated, or that America had just invaded a human-dominated region. "About time, boys," Alicia said, always going slow when needed. "Just wanted to save what little time we had from your screeching tone, Alicia," he responds. "You brat," Alicia responds. She then points to the ground. "Look." He sees Alicia and 3 other first calf soldiers standing there. He looks down and sees a light-skinned elf laying there dead. He sees the pointy ears and the more feminine body structure compared to the human males. Long dark green hair. His eyes widen, feeling the reality hit him that they are in an alien world, and he is looking at a real alien. "It is strange looking at an alien and already knowing what he is," Scott comments. Andrew agrees with Scott on that point. When people think they will meet aliens for the first time, they assume they would not know anything about them. But these aliens are humans, and now an elf. "All I can say is this," Alicia said. "Thank God we have guns." "Yeah," Scott said. "I would hate to fight these people if we didn't." Suddenly, Alicia's radio goes off. "Actual, this is Vanguard 7. Report," Alicia said and lightly hits the radio. "Damn, static. God, I miss satellite radio." "Vanguard 7, this is Vanguard Command," Sarah said. "Relay new orders to Major Sharpe. Fall back to Alus Hill." Andrew looks around the group, surprised to hear that. "What about the enemy? We still have to hit the other camp in 2 days." "Actual, are you sure?" Alicia asked. "Correct." Sarah responds through the static. "All companies are being recalled back to Alus Hill. We detected a large enemy force coming from the south." V01. Chapter 3, Second Battle of Alus Hill RM. Alus Hill, American Defensive Perimeter, March 2, 2025. When the Empire called on its allied kingdoms to arms, everyone came. Leagues away from Alus Hill, an assembly is currently being held. King Duran Fla Elba of the Elba fiefdom is seated at the head of the table, listening to the other younger kings and generals that are inside his command tent. The mood in the tent is incredibly positive, and everyone seems overconfident. He had heard of the recent reports of how the Empire was recently defeated. Hearing that, he quickly mobilized his army and sent messengers to the other kingdoms to get ready for war. When he got the Emperor's message that his army was needed, he was ready. He felt great honor to be called to lead the allied army against these other worlders. He has fought many wars, but he can tell this time will be his legacy. "Elputus," he said. "More wine, please." He sees his head slave move over to him and pour him more red wine. As king, he has many slaves, some to care of his chores and some for entertainment. However, Elputus has been his favorite. Elputus has always been loyal and good at his duties, and in return, he gives him a good life. He looks around the war table and sees the other kings and counts. He sees the main kings of Alguna, Mudwan, Tumarin, and League Principality sitting there, looking at the map. He looks down at the table with the map of the area around Alus Hill. The king from Alguna stands up. He knows of him, King Deluric Elwo Clayman. While allies under the imperial system, they have a long history of hostility. Out of all the other vassal kingdoms, Duran hates them the most. "Our scouts' reports are true," Deluric said and points to Alus Hill. "They have around 10, maybe 15,000 soldiers." "That doesn't see, right?" Duran said. "How could such a small force defeat the Imperial army?" "Maybe the Empire did more damage than the reports stated," his general said. "Maybe," he mumbles as he thinks of the situation. Early reports had also stated that the enemy had strange war animals and constructed strange fortifications. The other kings and generals saw this as an amateur enemy. Everything these other worlders were doing were wrong in the arts of war. While Duran agrees with their conclusion, his gut is telling him something is off. He has fought many wars to know when something is off. There is no way this enemy could have defeated the Imperial army and then make basic mistakes like this, unless he is missing something. All right, here is the plan of attack, he said, breaking from his muse. Mudwan will take their force from this direction. Alguna and their horde army will attack from the east with the intent of swarming the enemy position. We all will keep them busy. Unlike all other kingdoms, Alguna found a way to domesticate some of the more barbaric dark races like goblins, trolls, and ogres. Being a much smaller kingdom, they used them as a slave army to fight their enemies. Duran plans to use that to devastate the enemy defenses while they march forward. He then looks to the rest. The Tumaran army will attack from the west. The League army will take the gap between yours and my army. We will advance at dawn and overwhelm them with a combined force, he states. My Dragon Riders and Wyvern Corps will swoop into case a distraction and cover our advance. What about the Imperial army? The king from Mudwan asks. The latest message said the Imperial army will be advancing from the north, he replied. We will link our forces up and take the hill. He looks up at everyone and holds up his wine glass. Bring honor to yourself and glory to the Empire. Everyone cheers, all eager for battle. Alus Hill, American Defensive Perimeter, March 3th, 2025. Nearly 100,000 soldiers from the 5 allied kingdoms marched to the hill. It is still as dark as the sun has yet to raise. It was decided to begin the attack before sunrise, catch the otherworlders in their sleep. By the time the sun rose, the Allied forces would have been right on top of them with overwhelming numbers washing over them like water on rocks, streaming through the lines and surrounding them. King Duran looks around the battlefield, confused by what he does not see. The enemy has yet to leave their camp and meet them in battle. He knows there is no way the enemy cannot hear their advance. There are too many soldiers. He wonders if the enemy is waiting for them to get close, but that will be suicidal. The other issue is that he has yet to see anyone from the Imperial army. He was told that they would be here, and they would take the hill together. Were they late, or have they already been defeated? Either way, he must advance the Allied army. He pulls out his sword and points it forward. Advance. As they march closer, he sees that the ground is completely scorched as if it had already seen battle. As the sun rises and he can see more, he sees signs of the previous battle here. He rides on his horse as his army marches towards the hill. Forward, my men. The armies march and everything seems to be quiet as they move towards the hill. However, his gut tells him that something does not feel right. Are these intruders this dumb in the art of war? He mumbles to himself. I expected some guards or something out there to serve as lookouts. They continue marching, and everyone in the army sees a flagpole in the ground waving in the small breeze. It is the flag of the Empire. Around it is 2 dead bodies from the Imperial army. They look like they have been here for weeks. The sun raises further, and he sees more bodies everywhere, all of which were from the Imperial army who had been sent to defend the gate. Above, he sees his Dragon Riders and Wyvern Corps swooping in as planned. He then sees a strange glow quickly moving through the air coming from the enemy position. The object hits one of his dragons, killing it instantly. Then he sees another, then another, then another of these objects, all taking out his air force until there is nothing left. Suddenly, they hear loud sounds in the distance, and then bright lights come from their left. He looks over to the kingdom of Mudwan's position and sees large explosions, flares, and flying streaks of lights pelting their forces like unbelievably fast arrows. They are clearly being slaughtered. What is the meaning of this? He asks, dismayed. Is this dark magic? No. No magic can just kill off an army. How is this possible? That is when bright red lights shoot up from the hill and illuminates everything, exposing all of his men. He watches as the strange flare slowly falls, amazed by it. At first, he thought it was magic, but he realized it was not. How could they create miniature suns like this? He mumbles, trying to figure it out. Up ahead, he starts to see more flashes. His frontline legions are frightened from these flashes and hear these zipping sounds. His soldiers form up, getting behind their shields, but they keep falling like their shields are worthless. He hears large zooming sounds, and then suddenly, large explosions erupt across his front line. He sits upon his horse, gaping in awe. Most of his first wave is gone. That is when he realizes what is happening. This unknown enemy already knew they were coming. They were far stronger than he was led to believe. In the order from the Empire, Emperor Molt mentioned how strong this new enemy was, leading Duran to believe Molt knew this would happen from the beginning. "Damn you, Molt," Duran mumbles to himself. He looks forward, seeing no way to retreat. He pulls out his sword and points it towards the hill. "Charge!" he bellows at the top of his lungs. All of his men start charging up the hill, trying to close the distance. Strange noises come from the sky. Then, more explosions appear all around his men. Dozens of soldiers die in the blast. Holes in the formations would be fall in a matter of seconds. The flashes and zipping sounds coming from the hill tear through the rest of the forward formations. His soldiers unable to move out of the way because of all the dead bodies and the packed formations only making them die faster. "Keep attacking. For the Empire!" he yells, trying to keep the momentum. As he rides up the hill, an explosion blossoms next to him, knocking him off his horse. Major Sharpe weaves through the trench. Soldiers all around him engage the incoming enemy army. Since the rest of the army had arrived, they had established a holding position around the thing now being called the gate. Normally, the army is an aggressive fighting force who takes the initiative, not waiting for the enemy to attack. However, this is not Earth. This new world is strange. They know nothing about it. So the US's #1 priority is to prevent a second attack. Once the US feels that has been accomplished, then they can begin exploring this world and take the fight to the enemy. He continues rushing through the trenches, bypassing the hundreds of soldiers from the 1st Cavalry Division, firing their weapons down the hill. He continues to rush up to an observer post. "How is it?" he asks the personnel within. There are 4 other officers at the post looking at the incoming forces. One of the officers is Colonel William, the section leader of this defensive line. Captain Griffin, base operations officer, is here to coordinate artillery fire support. Major Bronston, the 1st Cavalry Division mechanized leader, aids in the defense of this section. The last is the Ranger commander, Colonel John Young. He stops and turns around, feeling the tremors of the tanks moving up. An Abram drives up and then stops, right behind the trench. Both of its machine guns begin firing into the incoming horde. Private First Class Alicia Moore is right behind him, holding her radio. This firecracker of a woman reminds him of a close friend he had. Always aggressive and a big month. "Inform Johnson we are at the OP, stay low," he orders her to relay. After saying that, the Abrams fires its main gun with a loud blast. "Sir?" Alicia complies and begins reporting to 2nd Lieutenant Johnson. As she speaks, an M2 Bradley and a few other heavy vehicles roll up. They begin unloading all their firepower, bring hell on top of the enemy. Sharpe walks into the sandbag bunker. "Colonel," Sharpe salutes. Both Young and William look at him and salute. "Welcome to the show, Major," Young said. "Colonel," he said, and then looks out into the meadow. He sees massive lines of soldiers marching up with explosions happening all around them. "Major, welcome to the fight," William said as he looks through his binoculars. "By God, how many are there?" Major Bronston asks. Sharpe looks to where Bronston is looking. Line after line of the enemy formation falls, but with each line that falls, another just appears. At least until they get wiped out. "When I first enlisted, and if you told me I would be fighting this, I would have thought you were on crack," Young said. "Or angel dust," Sharpe replied. Back on Earth, the troops were told that the enemy would be using ancient armor and weapons. The most basic of modern weaponry seemed to be able to easily punch right through the enemy's armor. That is when Captain Bailey of Vanguard 5 rushes in. "Welcome, Captain," Young said. "Good job on taking out that nest the other day." "Thank you, sir," Bailey said. He then looks over. "Damn, they are still marching up. They are determined SOBs, one," he replied. "See that ogre over there?" The ogre then explodes from a missile strike. "Well, what's left of him?" Bailey said with a morbid chuckle. "Yup," he replied. "That ogre eats people alive. I would hate to get close to these people. If they are willing to march to their deaths, then we cannot underestimate them." Bailey gives him a pat on the shoulder. "With your rep, I am glad you're here, buddy." "Shut up, Bailey," he said and looks at him. "This is like a bad joke," Bailey said as he watches U.S. forces slaughter the enemy. Alicia walks up behind them. "Major, I just got word that we are losing our artillery support. Heavy cavalry is attacking the west flank." Sharpe then looks at Griffin. "I think that will be fine. Thank you, Private First Class," Griffin said to her. Sharpe nods to her, Thank you, Alicia. You said thank you this time. Didn't know you knew that word, Alicia said to Sharpe in a smartass tone. He glares at her. She looks away smirking and then gets back on the radio. Are you going to discipline her, Major? Young asked. No, Sharpe responds. She reminds me of a friend, and honestly, I like smartass. Keeps me on my toes. If you say so, Young said. General Holland said I could trust you even though your record said you are a combat virgin who has had a desk job. I don't buy it. It is all true, sir, Sharpe said. Command got fed up with me and kicked me out to you. Holland never lies. We will see, Young said. Still, this sight blows me away. I wonder if this was how wars were fought back then, excluding the artillery raining down on them. Young then walks up to the sandbags, standing by a ranger on a .50 caliber. He then pulls out his binoculars and zooms in. Well, there are enough of them, Bailey comments. At this rate, we are going to end this war just by depleting their numbers. As Sharpe joins in to look down from the hill, he sees the thousands of Roman-like soldiers getting slaughtered by artillery, machine guns, tank cannons, and rifle fire. You're right, but still, they don't even stand a chance. Watching this reminds me of kings and generals, too, he said. King and generals, sir? Bailey asks. It was a YouTube channel before YouTube shot themselves in the foot, he replied. They're on other platforms now. They study ancient warfare. Never thought I would see any of that in my life. I watch that stuff. William comments, good stuff? Sharpe looks at William and then to Young, Colonel. We should get all the Vanguard team's leadership to watch that stuff. They talk about ancient warfare and some history. If the enemy is using ancient tactics, it could help our boys fight them. I agree, Major, Young said. Come up with a list and have Lieutenant Sarah deliver me the recommendations. Major Bronston looks over, overhearing the conversation. I saw that back in the day, too. I don't recall them talking about invading aliens, planets, and magic. All this reminds me of Stargate. William comments, personally, I preferred Atlantis, but both were good. Anyway, stay alert, and do not get overconfident. It doesn't matter that they're using bows and arrows. All you need is one bad day, and a unit will be slaughtered. Sharpe understands what William is saying. There is a good chance the enemy will not follow any human rights laws or Geneva Convention rules. There is a good chance they will be slaughtered if ambushed and enslaved or murdered if they were captured. I fully understand, sir, Sharpe said. That is when they hear Alicia warning them. Sirs, radar is reporting we have a second airborne raid incoming. They believe that it's dragons. She still is having a hard time believing all this is happening. That is something you don't hear every day, Bronston said. No worry, we have enough SHORAD assist here to tear them apart. SHORAD means short-range air defense. When dragons came through the gate, it was decided to bring in and slash TWQ, one Avenger Humvees, and the new Striker Mobile SHORAD with them. Both are armed with FIM-92 Stingers anti-air missiles, perfect for taking out dragons and wyverns. There is a short silence between everyone as they watch the show. Since the first battle, more troops from the United States poured through the gate. This hill had become more fortified than Fort Knox itself. They watch as the enemy lines break apart and start retreating. SAM missiles take out any of the airborne dragon threats that had arrived. By the time dawn arrived, the battle was pretty much over. Sharpe stands there watching as the battle comes to an end. Most of the enemy army is dead, and he wonders what else to expect in the coming weeks. This world seems like it has all different kinds of surprises, and he hopes he can meet those challenges. He hopes he is just worthy and can do things right. V01, Chapter 4 RM. Cone Forest, April 15th, 2025. Rory Mercury quietly jumps on top of a boulder. She looks down and sees 5 men around a campfire trying to stay warm. It is currently night. 2 of the men have naked women on either side of them being held or laying on the ground out cold. She had been hearing sounds of battle from the west of the Roma River and had been wanting to investigate. She sees that the men around the campfire are well armed and equipped. All are using standard Imperial weapons and equipment, so she knows they cannot be mercenaries or standard bandits. They are soldiers who had recently gone rogue. Man, I can't wait to get home, one of them said. Are you kidding? Do you really want to go back home after what we've been through? A bigger man said. They are just going to put you back into the army or enslave us for running away. A third man replied. And besides, we are free now. We can take whatever we want, rape anyone we want. No lord or king telling us what to do. Another laughs. All the men chortle and clang their glass mugs together. Besides, another said as he rips off a leg from the beast they had killed for food, we were promised riches and property if we enlisted. We are just getting what was entitled. He reaches over and pulls an elven woman closer to himself. She quietly whimpers. Rory heard enough and stood up from her cover. Why? Hello, boys. I see you all having a fun time. The men turn around, wondering where the voice came from. They then look up at the massive rock next to them and see the infamous demi-goodness, Rory Mercury, a servant to Emery, the god of darkness, war, violence, and death. All the men look up at her in awe and start to tremble in fear, taking a few steps backward away from their camp. Rory the Reaper. One man peeps out in growing horror. What are you doing here? Another man said, tossing the women on his lap away and grabbing for his sword. She smirks, jumps off the rock, and lands by the fire. She then flourishes her halberd behind her back, further intimating the soldiers. As she does this, she is humming a song she grew up with. It was such a childish tune, but when it was coming from the embodiment of the Grim Reaper herself, it was a song of death itself. I wonder what you have been doing, she said and glances to her right. There were 3 naked, dead women. She has seen this sight thousands of times. In this world, the strongest prey on the weak. That usually means that peasants get abused by the soldiers and their rulers. Rape and enslavement are the norm, and she has seen it all. But seeing the state of these women these men had left them in, dead or alive, just infuriates her. She finds no honor in such actions. Soldiers taking and abusing whatever they want when they are supposed to be the protectors of the people. She glares at them. I was told some bandits attacked a small village nearby. They murdered everyone and took 5 young girls. I take it that it was you 5. Before any one of them knows what to do, one of them charges her, taking a swing with his sword. The girl chops him down without sparing a single glance. At the same time, 2 more charges at her, but the remaining 2 run away. Once she is done with her first victim, she rushes towards the 2 attacking her and slashes them in half with a single twirl of her axe like scything through grass. She briefly pauses to take a glance at the remaining victims fleeing as fast as their legs could take them. Her legs pump and she unleashes a blinding burst of speed, closing the distance in a flash to pass the closest one. Before he realizes what has happened, he falls down in 2 parts separated at the waist. Rory stops right in front of the last victim like a wraith appearing out of nowhere. He falls over scared to death, slowly back-crawling away futilely from his doom. Please don't kill me. I didn't mean it. I was forced to. The man begs for his life as the Reaper approaches ominously with a light neutral expression on her face, as if she was disposing trash. Rory steps on his chest, preventing him from escaping. She looks down at the man. Begging mercy, she said, I highly doubt that you gave them that honor. She cocks her head to the dead female corpses behind her. He had not made it any further than a dozen yards before being caught. He continues begging for her to spare his life, but she would not have any of it. Tell me what I want to know, she demands. You are Imperial soldiers. Why are there so many around here? Why are you here? The bandit continues blithering like a fool until she not so gently persuades him to cease with a slight increase of weight to his chest. There is a new enemy in these lands, the man finally said. Our job was to hold the bridge crossing at the Roma River. We were slaughtered in the night. I don't believe you, she replied. I felt many souls pass through me, and I was not even close by. That means there had to have been a massive battle recently. I even heard the sounds of battle. The deathly terrified man nods. Yes, your holiness. On Alus Hill, the gate appeared. These otherworlders poured through and slaughtered us. 100,000 soldiers died in hours. General Ullerdan fell that night. This surprises her. General Ullerdan has fallen? She has heard of him. Imperial soldiers usually represent who their general is, and Uller is known to be very respectable. He was one of the few generals she somewhat liked. However, that was not the most important thing she heard. Did you say the gate? Yes, the man said. The gate has opened, and invaders are attacking us. I was at Alnus, and they slaughtered us. We tried to hold them on at the bridge, but they were destroyed. Us. Nothing can stop them. They are pure evil. Not even the goddess Hardy and Syphilis can compare to them. She tenses upon hearing Hardy. Hardy is the goddess of hell and the underworld, while Syphilis is the goddess of all acts of evil. For this man to reference both catches her interests. While she is no fan of the Empire, having another faction that could be worse than the Empire is not in her best interests. If what this soldier is saying is true, then she knows that she must investigate. As she thinks, she notices the man getting confused. "I answered all your questions," the man said. "Can I go free?" For a moment she thought about letting him go free for answering her questions. While Emroy is the goddess of death, he isn't for pointless death. However, she glances back to the 3 dead bodies and the other 3 injured women all sitting there scared. She looks back at him and unceremoniously cuts off his head. Rory licks her lips at the sight of crimson fountaining out of the neck. She enjoys the smell of death, especially from those who deserved it. Nevertheless, what he said was true. Over the past few weeks, she had felt tens of thousands of souls bursting through her body, creating a massive orgasmic experience she had ever experienced. For her god Emroy, she is a vassal for souls that die in battle when she is nearby. While she had experienced this for over 900 years, she had never experienced this many at once. She starts walking back and forth, thinking about what to do. I must go to Alnus and find out the truth. If they are hostile, I have to kill them. Oh, by the gods, I hope this will be fun. Things have gotten boring recently, she mutters to herself. She then hears a noise from the 3 women still alive. "Oh, I almost forgot about you," she exclaims. "Our Rory," a young woman shakily said, terrified of the apostle and the slaughter she had just committed in front of them. "What will you do with us?" Rory places her hands on her hips and thinks out loud. "If I recall, there is a village nearby. I will take you 3 to them, and they can deal with you. Small villages are usually nicer anyway." Alus Hill, 5 miles away. April 25, 2025. 3 Joint Light Tactical Vehicles, 2, or JLTV leave the American-controlled Hill of Alnus. After the last battle, the Vanguard program went into effect to go out and explore this new world, map the areas, make contact with the locals, determine who is and who isn't the enemy, and so on. The Ranger team, Vanguard 7, is on their first exploration mission into this new world. They will not be the only team being sent out. There are 4 other teams departing as well. Major Sharpe sits in the passenger seat in the Command JLTV. Unlike the other versions, the Command version has more space in the back for equipment or personal. Right now, he is talking on the radio. He is speaking with one of the other teams sent out. "Don't forget Bailey, when you die out there, I'll get your sports car." He ribs at him. "Hell no, Sharpe. I will send you a therapy book after I register a reading class for you." Captain Bailey shoots back, sarcastically. Alicia sits in the back, reading a book as she partly listens in. She messes with the controls on her radio set and mutters, "Boys, they never grow up. Be my guest, just make sure she is a hot teacher." "Now watch your 6, Sharpe said back to Bailey. "Your team 2, Vanguard 5 out." The radio goes quiet as their convoy heads north. Once the conversation is over, Alicia makes a comment to her boss. "You seem to be in a happy mood today, Major." Sharpe glances back. He knows what she means. Since he took command of this unit 3 months ago, he has not left a good impression. He knows that and regrets that, but he just could not help it. The only time he feels calm is when he is in combat. "Well, yeah," he replied. "Always wanted to go into space. We'll visit a new planet. Here we are. We are the spearhead of this grand discovery." He looks forward and glances to the right, "and it's good to be back on the field." "Damn right," Corporal Andrew Steele said. "We're going to be in the history books for this." "History books, my ass," Alicia said, annoyed as she works the radio controls once more. "This sucks. No satellites, no drones to bounce a single off. We're back in the fucking Stone Age." "That is war, Corporal," Sharpe replied in a commanding tone. "In war, you might not be able to use your fancy toys. You must always be ready to fight without technology. If you must use a smoke signal, do it." "I understand, sir," Alicia said with some annoyance. "That sounds like it came from experience." "Sir," Andrew speaks up, "have you been in combat before? I mean, with how you acted in the invasion." "And at that enemy camp last week," Alicia adds. Andrew looks at him. "We all have been talking, and nothing sounds right." We have been hearing other rumors that Sharpe glances sharply at them, clearly warning them not to continue the topic. He sees that they got the message and stayed silent. He felt like crap after that, so he looked outside. He sees the trees and the mountains in the distance. It surprises him how similar this world is to Earth. After some time passes, he sees a fork in the road. All right, Alicia. Tell everyone that we will be heading into that forest over there. I want everyone to keep a sharp eye out. There might still be strangers. Alicia speaks up. You don't sound confident in our mission. It is not that, he replied. Everything we knew. All of our rules and values are going to be tested to the extreme. We have invaded a Tolkien 3-like world. It looks like we are technologically superior over the enemy, but that does not mean we won't come out unscarred. Even if we think we have everything figured out, always remember the enemy gets a vote. But if we are not careful, this could end up like another war on terror. The reason why we are being sent out first for these recon missions is because we are the ones who will be making the rulebook. Everything we do will set the standard for the foreseeable future. Sharpe finishes, thinking about the situation. All right, Steele, let's head that way. Maybe that path will head to a town or something, he orders while pointing. As they drive, he looks at his little Optimus Prime toy on his dashboard. He had placed it there before they left. Prime is a noble leader of the Autobots in the franchise Transformers. Always noble, doing the right thing, and a clear great leader among his troops. He looks at it to help remind him why he is here and who he is, hoping to be as strong as he is. Fort Alnus, Alus Hill, April 25, 2025. First Lieutenant Sarah Rose, Vanguard 7 Logistical Officer, walks around the newly constructed command building she will be working in for the foreseeable future. As she carries the box into Vanguard Command Building, she sees more construction equipment and supplies coming as the U.S. Army continues its build-up. The primary division operating that had been sent to secure this side of the gate had been the 1st Cavalry Division. Currently, she can see the Army airfield for the 101st Airborne being set up. She also sees a new motor pool and barracks for the incoming elements of the 2nd Armored Division and 10th Mountain Division. Over the past few weeks, there had been a large amount of construction on this hill. Contrary to popular Hollywood beliefs, a military cannot just appear somewhere and wage war. The only way to wage a modern war is having the infrastructure and logistics needed to support the boots on the ground. Come on, Sarah, 2nd Lieutenant April said. She is Vanguard 5's logistical officer. To help the Ranger Vanguard teams being sent into the unknown alien world, each team has its own logistical officer to help with mission updates, logistics, and resources. They help make sure their teams have all the up-to-date information and equipment they need to carry out their mission and survive. Sarah heads to her office and starts setting up her computer. As she works, she gets a check-in from Alicia complaining that their commander is acting cold and isolated again. Sarah thinks back to right before her team left. She had tried to tell Major Sharpe to be careful out there and be a good representative of Earth to the locals. He did not take it well. She does not understand what is wrong with the Major. His attitude and forced distancing are hurting the unit, and she is worried that he will screw up a first contact scenario. However, she is conflicted on that opinion. She can see in his eyes that he knows what he is doing. Sometimes, she wonders if he is punishing himself, and that is why he acts the way he does. You need to stop thinking about him, Sarah, April said. You think about him like he is your boyfriend. She looks at April. Well, take away the attitude. He is handsome looking. Handsome and rude, April responds. Only a matter of time until the army boots him. Still cannot believe he oversees people. Sarah leans back in her chair and thinks, I think there is a reason why he is here. He kind of reminds me of my father a little. I think he just needs someone to believe in him. You are such a schoolgirl, Sarah, April teases. As she is working on her station, she sees the Vanguard leader Colonel John Young walk in. He is the head of the 75th Ranger Regiment in the Special Region. She stands up and salutes, Sir. Stand down, Lieutenant Rose, Young said. I just came by to see how the Major is doing. She takes a breath thinking about it. Major Sharpe. He prefers to be called by his last name. When he joined the team, it was a rough start. He was very distant, quiet, and he seemed to hate being in the Rangers. I got their last check-in about 20 minutes ago, sir, she said. They should be entering the forest soon. Good, Young said. We don't know what is out there yet. I want them all to get back alive. I understand, sir, she replied. I will remind him of that. V01, Chapter 5 RM. Cone Forest, April 25th, 2025. As Vanguard 7 drove down the dirt road, it had been about 6 hours since they left Fort Alnus. So far, their mission has been very uneventful. They have only passed a farmhouse with some kids working in the fields. While looking out the window, Major Sharpe looks at the trees for anything that is suspicious. As Vanguard 7 moves along, they suddenly hear a loud roar. Before anybody could even speak, a large beast flew right past them with incredible speed. Sharpe's second in command, Second Lieutenant Charles Johnson, speaks through the team radio. Did everyone see that? How the hell didn't we see that, sir? Private Second Class Marvin Scott said. It a fucking dragon screaming and flying around, Andrew said. It sounds like a big one. Sharpe grabs his radio. Stay calm and keep an eye out. I think it went. He stops as he is interrupted by Andrew. Stand by. Sir, look to the left. Smoke, Andrew said as he pointed in the direction. Both he and Alicia look to the left and see smoke. It seems like it is only a few kilometers away behind a tree line. He thinks of every possible situation on why smoke is coming from there. It could be nothing, but it is most likely some town or village. If there is smoke, that usually is a sign of trouble, but so far, they have not seen anything. At least in that direction, it may be something worthwhile checking out. Sharpe orders for the Vanguard teams to recon the area, find out what is around Alnus, and report back. If anyone ran into the enemy or found themselves in a dangerous situation, they would fall back to base. There is so little the US and Army knows about this world. They are literally writing the rules book as they go. Still, if that is a village, they seem to be in trouble. There is no way he can just pass that up. He speaks into the radio again. Rangers, to our left there we see smoke. We are going to check it out. Stay sharp and watch for snipers. Snipers? Andrew asked. That is my job. An arrow can act as a sniper, he responds. The Vanguard 7 convoy heads in the direction of the smoke. While the team is separated into 3 vehicles, he can feel the tension among his rangers. Everyone wants to see something besides trees, maybe some action, anything to end the boredom. As they approach the location of the smoke, he begins wondering what happened to the dragon. Andrew had said dragons can breathe fire, and while that is only in fantasy stories, Sharpe has no reason to believe that it is not true in real life. With this dense tree cover, if the dragon decides to attack, they will never see it coming. Once they arrive, all they see is burnt buildings. The ground is black, scorched from whatever that dragon did. Burnt skeletons are everywhere, both humans and animals alike. Everything in the town is destroyed, and the area is completely lifeless. We're not in Kansas anymore, Scott said over the net, most likely making a pop culture reference and then making a smartass joke comparing it to his current surroundings. Watch your language, Scott, and show some respect, Randy said to him, working to maintain order. Sorry, Sergeant Major, Scott replied. My God, this is horrible, Alicia said, shocked by the destruction. Are we disembarking, sir? Johnson asked over the radio. They hear another roar from the dragon before Sharpe could reply. Based on the sound, it must be close. That's your answer, Lieutenant, he said. We keep moving. Hope we can get to the next village in time. Sharpe looks back to see Alicia. Alicia, report to base and the other teams in the area. Inform them we might have a fire-breathing dragon in the region. Alicia nods her head and starts working on her radio system, relaying his message. After that, they move out again, heading down the path. As they leave, he looks around, reflecting on the burnt bodies. As they pass, he sees 3 burnt skeletons. Based on the size and number of corpses, he assumes it was a small family. Everything good, sir? Andrew asked him. Sharpe looks to Andrew. So far, he has grown to like Andrew, shocked on how much they have in common. Nerds for life, he supposed. I am fine. Keep focused, Corporal. Sorry, sir. Andrew apologized. Just noticed your hand tapping the door. Sharpe looks to his hand and stops tapping. He did not even notice that. It has taken almost an hour until they get to the next town. The whole trip is quiet as everyone reflects on the devastation. Normally everyone is very chatty, but not now as they see the horrors of war. Most of the Rangers have yet to see actual combat until this war. While they are well trained, some of the best on Earth, Practice and training can only prepare someone so much until they experience the real thing. Be advised. We see buildings up ahead. Looks like another town. This one's alive, Randy said over the net. Thank God. Maybe we can warn them, Alicia replied. To all teams, we stop here unless they threaten us, he said. Do not let them get close to our vehicles, though. Help when needed. When they arrive at the town, they see the villagers stopping whatever they are doing and watch the rangers come in. The townsfolk are all wary and baffled by who they are, looking at their JLTVs with some measure of awe. Sharpe assumes they are all trying to figure out what kind of horses or wagons they are using, being something they have never seen before. All right, everyone, he said, dismount and happy faces. However, do not let them get close to our equipment. Don't want anyone stealing anything. You heard the Major, Randy said. Jerry and Scott, stay with the JLTVs. Everyone else is dismounting. The JLTVs stop and everyone gets out. Sharpe gets out of his command JLTV and looks around. He sees Lieutenant Johnson and Sergeant Major getting out and ordering the team along. He sees an old man walk up, followed by a few other men. Unlike everyone else, this man looks important. Hello there. Can I see who is in charge here? Sharpe asked. Confused looks form on the locals' faces as they exchange looks with one another, silently debating whether they could trust him or not. It is important. We are friends. We mean you no harm unless you mean harm to us, Sharpe urges. Finally, the old man steps forth and introduces himself. I am the mayor of this town, he said. If you mean no harm to us, then we mean no harm to you either. Sharpe nods, accepting the peace offer. He then takes off his helmet and signals to Alicia to do the same. Hello there. What can I do for you folks? The mayor asked, still somewhat afraid of the newcomers. He looks at the JLTVs. Impressive. Wagons you got there. Oh yeah, thank you, Sharpe replied in a more friendly tone, playing himself off as a little dumb as to seem less dangerous. They are not wagons. We call them vehicles. So, I take it you're in charge here. Yes. Now what brings you here? We do not want trouble, the Major asked, seeing the unknown weapons the Rangers are holding. He has no idea what they are, and that is only adding to the fear factor. Neither do we, Sharpe said. My name is Major Sharpe of the United States Army. We are from the other side of the gate and new to these lands. We are here to get to know your people and establish peace terms. But first, I need to ask something. Are dragons common here? Saying all that makes him think about the science fiction TV shows Star Trek and the Orville. First Contact episodes were always cool, watching the ship crew make an interdiction to new, unknown people, all with the hope that good things come with that possible relationship. Sadly, that would rarely happen in the shows. He hopes he has better luck with First Contact. Wait, you people are from the other side of the gate? So, it is true. The Empire's army was defeated, the Major asked, shocked by that statement. The Empire's army? Randy asked as he walks up. What exactly is the Empire? Sharpe follows up. So far in the war, military intelligence has struggled to find a name for the enemy, which only makes things more confusing. The mayor looks confused by the question. What do you mean, what is the Empire? They are the ones who rule these lands. They rule most of Falmart. He then looks at them. You really did defeat the Empire? I mean in battle? Damn right. Alicia answers, all energetic. They came, they saw, and we kicked their ass back to Kingdom Come. Randy grabs Sharpe's shoulder and pulls him aside. So, the enemy is called the Empire? That seems weird. I read the report Sarah made, Sharpe replied. The prisoners from Philadelphia said they were warriors of the Empire. We were confused why they never gave us a name of their country. Because they don't have one? Randy adds, confused by that. What kind of country doesn't have a name? No idea, he shrugs. But that is why we are out here. Maybe we can get some good intel from this place. He turns back to the villagers to ask more questions, but is confused by what the Major is doing. The mayor is looking at Alicia with a slight leer. Are you enjoying the view, mister? Alicia said crossly, crossing her arms to cover her breasts. It's like you've never seen a woman before. The mayor looks back to Sharpe. Why is a woman speaking to us men? You allow this? Without hesitation, Sharpe moves his arm in front of Alicia to both defend her and stop her from pouncing the elder for that statement. Alicia is annoyed by him stopping her. He can hear her mumble, grumbling derogatory, terms about the village mayor and sexism. Mayor. Sharpe speaks up in a commanding, severe tone, glaring directly into the mayor's eyes. His free hand moves his rifle up and down slightly, clearly implying something bad could happen if the mayor continued that train of thought. It is wise not to insult a member of my team. Man or woman, do we have an understanding? He can see what he said impressed Alicia. She is surprised he would stick up for her. The mayor sees the implied threat and realizes he had overstepped. He nods his head. My apologies. Now, back to my question. Sharpe asked, relaxed now. A dragon? The mayor said, we see wyvern and dragons once in a while, but they leave us alone. The only time they bother us is when they take our livestock. Sharpe is glad to hear that dragons are normal. However, something does not feel right. The mayor does not seem worried about dragons burning his village down. Why do you ask? The mayor asked, confused. We asked because we saw a town was burnt down by one. Randy speaks up. These dragons, do they normally burn villages to the ground? Sharpe asked, continuing Randy's point. Johnson suddenly walks up, after giving orders to the squad. We heard that noise too. He points down a direction. There is a town up the road, that direction. Oh, that's Rollith. The mayor realizes. Wait, are you saying that Rollith was burned down? The mayor turns hysterical by the news. Oh God. Then it has returned. The legend is true, but this cannot be. It should not have awakened for another 300 years. At least, we need to leave while we still can. Travelers, I thank you for warning us, but we need to evacuate with utmost urgency. Hold on, Sharpe said, waving his hands in an attempt to placate the mayor down. You just said that dragons are normal? Yes, they are, but not this kind of dragon, the mayor said. Only one kind breathes fire, and that is the flame dragon, the beast of beasts. We are all going to die. The mayor immediately scrambles to give orders to the townsfolk. Everyone starts rushing around in a frenzy to gather their most valuable things to evacuate with. Sharpe can feel the gravity of the situation. These people are terrified by this flame dragon. Major, Johnson said, we should leave before we are attacked. Our orders say we should fall back if we make contact with the enemy, and if this flame dragon is a big deal, we are not equipped to handle it. Sharpe looks to Johnson and knows he is right. They do not have the manpower or equipment to deal with this situation. Contacting the base will be hard in this dense forest, so there is no reliable way to get help. Besides, it would take a day or longer to get help without helicopters. He looks around the village and takes a breath. He then looks at the angsty mayor. We can help. After saying that, he then looks to his men. Johnson, divide the men. See if we can speed this up. Get Jerry to form a medical wagon. Good chance there will be some sick or old people. Good call. There is always something. Randy comments, supportive of his decision to stay. Johnson nods and then walks over to everyone else to relay and carry out Sharpe's orders. Sharpe turns to the radio operator. Alicia, try and patch me through with command and get Lieutenant Sarah on the horn. I need to report this. Oh, yeah, I can try. We are pretty far out though, she said. She then rushes to the JLTV and starts patching into the radio net, trying to get a signal back to Alnus. 37 minutes later. The evacuation seems to be going very well. The townsfolk gathered whatever they could while Vanguard 7 helped wherever they could to speed up the process. Major Sharpe walks along the town to make sure no one is left behind. Growing up, he read and watched the book and movie, We Were Soldiers and Young by Hal Moore. After that, it became one of his major sources to base his morality and soldiering on. During the Vietnam War, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore said, "We leave no one behind." The United States Army has adopted that phrase. It is a phrase Sharpe lives by, sometimes too closely. When he is done checking out the village, pleased that no one is left, he starts to head back to his convoy. As he is about to head back, he sees 3 men in what seems like military robes rushing away. Everyone else is on the east side of the village, yet these people are going in the opposite direction. They do not look like they are from the village. He was going to let them go, seeing that it was not worth the interaction. He is alone and doesn't want to risk turning the village into a battle zone with all of these civilians. However, something dissuades from him ignoring them any further. The sight of a 10 to 11-year-old girl tagging along catches his intrigue. To his shock, she is naked as she is being pulled by their wagon, bound by ropes around her hands. Before coming to this world, the brass warned the soldiers that they might see things they might not understand or agree with. This world's culture might be vastly different, but they should be respected, regardless. The idea behind that order was because the brass had no idea what the culture of this world was. They did not want their troops to get involved in things that they didn't yet understand. The army did not want to go into another failed nation-building project like in Iraq and Afghanistan. They only had 3 objectives: keep the war simple, keep the US safe, and defeat the enemy. Before Sharpe could react, the wagon and the 3 men moved around a building, leaving the town. He knows he should let them go, following orders and focus on getting the townsfolk away. However, for some reason, he just cannot let go and stops them. "Hey!" he yells at the 3 men in his commanding tone. "What are you doing with her?" The 3 men stop and turn around. None of them look afraid of Sharpe. They pull out their swords, chuckling darkly at him. "Mind your own business if you know what's good for you," one man threatens. The girl turns around and looks at him. She has a cold, scared, and defeated look in her eyes. Sharpe could easily gun them all down with his M4A1. However, he is worried that might risk hitting the girl. He would not have the time to aim since he is so close to them. He pulls out his M1911 Colt pistol. He gives the belligerent men a defiant glare, showing he means business and that he is not afraid of their size nor numbers. "Drop your weapons and back away," Sharpe orders with a stern glare. As Sharpe said that, one of the men attacks him with a swing of his sword. He dodges easily, his reflexes and training taking over. He moves around the bigger man to gain some distance and shoots the man directly in the chest. The man falls backwards from the shot, dead before he hits the ground. The second man charges shortly after hearing the shot, wildly stabbing his weapon at the American. Sharpe steps out of the way, tripping the lunging man. In the corner of his eyes, Sharpe sees the third man attempt to blindside him. He ducks under the wildly flailing sword and steps back to regain his distance once more. The other man gets back up and joins his comrade. Sharpe finds himself facing 2 opponents now. It is no big deal to him. There are odds more worse than this. He has been trained and served with the best the United States Army has to offer. He is confident of his skills and knows his limits. Meanwhile, he sees overconfidence in his enemy's eyes. The Imperial men grin, thinking they have him cornered. Sharpe prepares for them to attack, but notices they are just standing there in a defensive position. He is confused by why they will not press their numerical advantage and maintain their close combat advantage. But if they want to give him a free shot, he will take it. He aims his pistol, planning on ending this now. However, his gut screams to him that something is off. Glancing down on the ground, he sees a moving shadow, a massive shadow, one bigger than his own. Realizing someone is right behind him about to swing something heavy down on him, Sharpe leaps over to his right. A massive axe just misses him. At this point, he doesn't have to think. His muscles and reflexes are running purely on automatic. He sees that this newcomer isn't a real man but some kind of hybrid lion-human. He had seen pictures in the report of these beasts, but still takes seeing to believe it. 2-legged, lion-headed, a body almost double the thickness of a human man. And it was angry. While Sharpe is down, the lion picks him up and tosses him into the mud. Sharpe rolls his landing and quickly recovers without much injury. As he gets up, a man charges at him. He quickly deflects the sword with his knife, grabs the man's armor and judo flips the man over his back and onto the ground before the man knows what had just happened. Before he can recover, Sharpe shoots the man in the head and starts prowling to the left, trying to maintain some distance between himself and the anthropomorphic lion. The lion charges once more, letting out a loud roar, but this was a distraction for the remaining Imperial to reposition himself to charge at Sharpe's flank. Sharpe knows the lion is the greater threat and must be taken out now while he still has energy. Seeing the other man flanking him, he flips his pistol around so he is holding the barrel and knocks one of the swords to the side, deflecting it. He then grabs the man by his armor and swings him away into the ground, stunning him. The fight returns to being a one-on-one skirmish with Sharpe planning on dealing with the Imperial later. The lion charges at him. Sharpe flips his grip on his knife, holding it by the tip. He then throws it at the lion, hitting it in the shoulder, just missing the throat. This slows the lion down enough for him to react and aim. Sharpe aims his Colt and fires 3 times at the lion, forcing it to drop its axe. To his surprise, The lion keeps coming even though it has 3 large holes in its body. The lion grabs Sharpe by the ballistic vest and lifts him up like he weighs nothing. The lion also grabs for the hand holding the pistol, finally recognizing the threat the black object possesses. With his other hand, Sharpe grabs the knife in the lion's shoulder and yanks it out. He stabs it right into the jaw of the lion. The lion lets go of him and lets out a painful screech. It stumbles back and pulls out the knife from its jaw. At the same time, Sharpe lands on the ground and rushes towards the lion. With all of his force, he rams into the lion's stomach, knocking it over. While it is down, he aims at the lion's head. It freezes up upon staring down the deadly muzzle of the diminutive weapon of death. Sharpe pulls the trigger with no warning. As his adrenaline winds down, Sharpe takes a breath before remembering the last man. He whips around to face the last threat and sees his foe charging at him and a sword flying mid-swing at his neck. Without warning, they hear the crack of a bullet passing through his skull. The charging man dies instantly and barrels over sideways to the ground, the sword losing all of its aim and passing over Sharpe's head unmolested. Sharpe turns to his left and sees Alicia standing there with her still-smoking rifle at ready. Alicia lowers her weapon and notices that Sharpe has no reaction to his near-death experience. "Are you okay, sir?" Sharpe merely ignores her. He wipes away the blood on his knife with his uniform sleeve and resheathes it back on his person. He then checks his pistol for any damage, reloads and safes it, and holsters it back on his hip. As he did so, he looked at the frightened girl standing by the wagon, her hands still in bondage. He notices that she has the most beautiful blue eyes he has ever seen. Her hair is dirty, but it is clear that she has smooth, dark brown hair. He can see the fear in her eyes. She is probably scared of him after witnessing him take on these 4 Imperials and killing 3 of them, one of which being a lion almost twice his size. She is probably wondering why he did that, and, probably from her experience, she is assuming he is claiming her body for himself. Sharpe takes a deep breath and forces a kind smile. He walks over to her and kneels in the mud. "I mean you no harm. My name is Sharpe, and I am an American." He brings out his knife again and begins cutting the ropes off of her. In the background, they hear another roar from what they believe is the dragon. He realizes he is wasting time and that the convoy needs to leave now. He finally frees the girl from her bondage. Seeing how weak she is, he picks her up and starts carrying her in his arms. He can see the girl is more frozen with fear as he is carrying her. He doesn't want to scare her, but he doesn't know what else to do. She looks like she has been walking for weeks, and based on the blood and stains between her legs, those sick men have been raping her. He honestly is impressed that she was able to walk at all. Alicia rushes up to his side. "Sir?" Alicia said, still shocked at what had happened. "What the fuck was that?" He ignores her question. "When we get to the vehicles, can you find something for her to eat and wear? And can you clean these stains on her? I don't want the others seeing her in this state." "You are kidding, right?" Alicia said wearily. "But what about Jerry? Shouldn't the doc check her out?" "No time right now," he replied. "There are too many people as is. Jerry will have to check her back at base." He starts walking back to the vehicles, but pauses briefly and looks back at Alicia. "Also don't tell Sarah," he adds. "I'd rather not have command know what happened." "Oh, hell no," Alicia said. "These bastards deserve it." He does not respond, just heading back to the vehicles. It only takes a few minutes for them to get back to the main road where everyone is at. It looks like everyone is about ready. Randy, Scott, and Johnson rush up to him. Scott speaks first. "We heard gunfire." Alicia ran off. He stops upon seeing that he is carrying someone. "Who is this?" "Doesn't matter. Go to your jobs, we are leaving," Sharpe said to them. They salute in acknowledgement and swiftly return to finish their remaining work. Sharpe heads to the back of his command JLTV and nods for Alicia to open the back door. He then sets the girl down in the back. Once he sits down inside, the girl moves away slightly, trying to find anything to hide behind. Understandably, she is still afraid. He leans in. "Look, you will be okay. I am here to help all these people. There is a dragon." Now, he motions to the woman next to him. "This is Private First Class Alicia. She is going to help you. Can you be nice with her?" "Stop doing that, sir. She is scared enough as it is," Alicia reprimands, standing right there. He takes a deep breath and nods. He then walks away to get everyone moving. V01, Chapter 6 Flame Dragon RM. Cone Forest, April 25th, 2025. It has been over an hour since everyone left the village. There are hundreds of wagons traveling in single file in this makeshift single-lane dirt road. The Vanguard team is currently escorting the caravan. Once Sharpe's Vanguard team got out of the forest, he was able to report the situation to Vanguard Command. He informed them that a village was destroyed, and he believes that these people are the next target. When he made the report with Sarah and Yang, he expected to get an earful, especially about the girl. Not that they disagreed in saving her and the village, but for getting involved and putting everyone at risk. All the colonel said was that he agreed with his judgment on the field, and to remember that they might look human, but they are aliens. He needs to be careful not to get the unit killed because of it. That last part did bother him, however. To his surprise, Sarah did not yell at him either. To his confusion, she seemed shocked and pleased. Since he first met her, she has been on his ass on every occasion, including the most basics of command. God damn it, I fucking hate this. I left California to get away from the traffic, Andrew said, frustrated in how slow everyone is going. Hey, Alicia yells. Watch the language. We have a young guest, remember? The girl that helped to save from those 4 men, who might be some kind of slave traders. He took her back to the jail TV to keep her safe during this situation. He asked Alicia to find something for her to wear, so she will not be naked anymore. The only clothing available there are extra adult military shirts and blankets. While it is not enough, it has to do until they get back to base. He shakes his head. Be nice, both of you. Also, we should be there by nightfall. They did say the next village wasn't too far. Yeah, Andrew said, just frustrated on how slow everyone is going. I do have to say, boss, that was pretty cool. He looks at Andrew with a glare. What is that supposed to mean? You thought I was a monster like those men? Sorry, sir, Andrew said, caught off guard by his reaction. Calm down, sir, Alicia said. He's just saying that it was cool what you did. Most officers wouldn't do that. He turns around to look at Alicia and then back to Andrew, realizing his mistake. I am sorry and thank you. It's just cool, Andrew said again. Sharpe can see that they think of him as some bland officer of some kind. He knows he has not had the best image, but he cannot believe that saving a kid from rapist pedophiles was an achievement. He did not realize how low his reputation is. Some time passes, and he adjusts himself from the boredom. In the boredom he can think about the new girl he saved. He takes a nervous breath and leans between both front seats, looking into the back of the jail TV. How is our little princess? She looks better. The girl is just sitting there in a seat. She is wearing his spare military shirt. It is long enough to cover her whole body. She is always wrapped in a blanket to stay warm. Alicia did a good job of cleaning the mud, blood, and other stains off her. He must admit she looks cute all cleaned up. Alicia is leaning against the door, holding her legs like she is trying to protect her body. Her eyes still say that she is scared. Seeing her in the position confirms his worst fears. Whoever those people were, they have beaten and raped her. Just imagining that fate angers him, but he controls himself and forces a smile. Alicia looks at him. She is fine. I was about to clean her up. She still needs a real bath to get some of the stains off, but she is a good-looking lady, and a lady shouldn't be that dirty. He chuckles at that comment. You're in the wrong career then. Alicia shoots him a glare. I never said I was a lady. She then looks over to the girl, but she hasn't said a word, probably scared to death. I bet we look very scary with our uniforms and weapons. I can't even imagine what she has been through. He looks over to the girl. This was not the first time he ran into a situation like this. Once fighting drug cartels in Mexico and Southeast Asia, there is a lot of bad back on Earth, but he wonders if they could do something good here. Deep down inside, he just has this strange, deep urge to help her. He has had it since he first laid eyes on her. While it would have been right to walk away and not get involved, he didn't know the situation, context, the culture, or whatever the other million reasons there could have been. Every pulse in his body could not just walk away but wanted to help. He can see that Alicia is right. She is scared to death. To her, he and his soldiers must look scary, looking all different than the local clothes. What he and his people consider normal is very foreign to her, just like the reaction by the mayor when he saw the vehicles. He did not have a word to describe what he was seeing. He takes a deep breath, lost on what to do. He looks to the little Optimus Prime figure that is tapped on the center of the dashboard. That little toy has been with him for a long time now, Always something to focus on when in doubt. Right then, and he comes up with an idea. It is a stupid idea, but when he was stationed in Japan, he had to learn the local culture. It helped bridge the gap so he could work with them easier. Without warning, he opens his door and gets out. The convoy is not going fast, so he could just get out and walk. He then opens the back door and hops back in. As he gets in, he holds his index finger to Alicia, warning her not to jump down his throat for doing that. He then sits down by the girl. He takes off his helmet, so he looks less threatening, and sets it down next to her. He sets it down on the floor and looks to her. He reaches down into his pocket and pulls out his cell phone. He takes his arm and wraps it around her. He can see she is getting worried as her body closes, holding onto the blanket more tightly. "It is okay, kid," he said as he pulls her closer to him. He then shows her his phone. The girl looks at him confused, not understanding what the device is. He then goes into a download video app and plays an episode of the 1980s Transformers cartoon show. He then shows her the screen as he plays the show. "This is my favorite show. I love everything about it." He then points to his eyes and then to the screen, showing her to watch it. As he starts to watch, he hears Andrew speak up in a thrilled tone. "Boss, really? You really are playing Transformers? You are a bigger nerd than I am. I love it." "Wait, before you answer that," Alicia comments in the conversation. She looks at Sharpe with a confused shock. "You are telling me, out of everything you were allowed to bring here, was that?" He looks at them and then back to her. I also brought Beast Wars, the Netflix version, and some other films, classics." Andrew burst out laugh, and Alicia shakes her head smiling, looking away, enjoying learning a little about their boss. "My boss is a child. God help us all," Alicia said, chuckling. Wow, wow, wow. Come on. Transformers is the greatest thing of all. All kids love Transformers. And besides, I don't know what else to do," he said in a proud tone. The girl is sitting on this semi-conferable seat, being far softer than sitting on wood. She finds this wagon very strange, the same with everything else these strangers have. She stares at all three adult soldiers. They start to argue about what is on that strange small object that the man next to her is holding, but it seems they are having fun. Well, close to being friends at least. But everything about them all is strange. All this seems strange. This weird metal wagon is nothing like she has ever seen before. The clothes they wear look different. They are not like robes or clothes she has ever seen either. On top of that, this device in his have is also strange. It has what looks like moving pictures and sound coming from it. These people in this motion picture device are so small and moving, but they do not seem to be wearing anything either. She was given to these slave traders 3 months ago, being sold by her kingdom's noble class to the Empire. Since that day, she was forced to travel thousands of kilometers, sometimes on land and other times on the river network. Suddenly, she is trapped with these people. That man who is holding her next to her killed her slave traders, which is highly illegal by the slave guild. To her surprise, the female soldier cleaned her body up to the point she enjoys her own smell again. No more dry stains and stickiness all over her body, especially between her legs. They then gave her this big shirt, blanket, and some food. She is confused about why they are helping her, wondering if they know who she is or do they have hidden motives. So far, she noticed that they have no idea who she is, and her heart is telling her she is safe for the first time in a long time. She just hopes that this is not a lie like last time. What is confusing her the most is that they are clearly soldiers, and yet they're not like soldiers. Soldiers usually take what they want from their enemies. They kill the men and take the women, then rape them. They steal the livestock and any wealth they can get. Many times, soldiers go and take the ones they conquered as slaves. This is allowed under the right of conquest. She looks back at the man, trying to figure him out. He looks and acts scary. How he killed her owners. Only a professionally trained killer could do it. As these people talk to each other, she looks at the strange small box with the strange-looking people in the small object. One blocky red man fighting another silver blocky man. And then, there are humans on there too. Is this all real? How can they fit in this small object? She reaches out, wanting to touch the device, see if she can touch the people on it. But then she realizes that man holding it turns his head towards her and then smile. "You like it?" he asked, looking at her. "Here, you can hold it. It is a great show." She won't understand any of it. It is kind of pointless. Maybe try something else, Alicia points out. She can see the frustration in his face. It looks like he is trying to make her happy. I know you're right. I am just, the man next to her said, taking a deep breath. She remembers that he called himself Sharpe. After months of being brutalized and enslaved by those 4 mercenaries, for the first time in an awfully long time she feels safe, even though she saw him kill them without any issue. Looking back at the screen and seeing that this man called Sharpe likes whatever he is showing her, she reaches out and tries to take it, wanting to see why he likes it so much. The girl takes it and looks at it, turning it around as she studies the phone. She is amazed at how light it is. She does not see any way to get inside it. So how are those people in there talking? That is when she notices that the people inside are just talking to each other and interacting with each other, kind of like those theater shows back home. She then looks back at him and speaks very softly. What is this? That takes everyone by surprise, like they were not expecting her to speak or something. I didn't know if you could understand us, Sharpe said and then smiled. This small thing in my hand is what we call a phone. It allows us to talk to each other at a far distance. It also can hold moving pictures like this. This is my personal favorite one called Transformers. It is about robots. Tall metal people from another world. Right then Sharpe begins to explain the basics of the show, who are the leaders and factions, and what is going on. She tilts her head a little confused. He seems to be very into this show. She then looks at the phone and back at him, pointing to the people on it. Are they alive? She said in a broken, tired voice. Both him and the female soldier chuckle. The woman named Alicia speaks first. No, dear, that is just a show. Entertainments, for children. But when she noticed her glancing at the leader, children of all ages, Sharpe looks at her. You're not going to let this go, are you? I am your boss. A boss who brought children's shows with him. Alicia makes her final point and looks away, chuckling. Greatest shows ever, Sharpe said with a proud full tone. Before she could say something, a sudden loud roar is heard. She sees that talking box on Alicia's station and the dashboard begins to speak. But this time, they all look serious suddenly. He speaks into this other strange device, having a conversation with someone who is not in the metal wagon. Amazed by that, she wonders if the talking boxes are magical as some kind. Roger that. We are on our way, Sharpe said like he is talking to himself. Alicia, stay here. One of the wagons broke and the accident is blocking the caravan. Steel, you're with me. After he said that, they grab those long gray-looking sticks and leave the metal horse. She looked over to Alicia. Alicia? Right? Again, in a broken, tired voice. Alicia looks over at her and then smiles. Yes, that is my name. What is yours? She hesitates to say her name. They are strangers, and do T feel comfortable yet to say who she is. Why did that man help me? Am I his slave now? Alicia looks to her, thinking about her response. No, slavery outlawed in our country. We consider it a mortal sin. But why? She tries to say and coughs. Alicia hands her a water canteen. It's water, drink. She takes it and drinks. The reason he saved you us because what those 4 men were doing was wrong, Alicia said. No child should be a slave, especially to a cute girl like you. She thinks for a moment on what Alicia said. She looks down at the phone, seeing that show continues to play. She looks back up to Alice. My name is Selena. Alicia smiled at her. That is a cute name. I like it. Do not worry, you are safe with us. Also, you don't have to watch that. She looks at the phone and sees the tall red color box man that Sharpe called Optimus Prime speaking about something. Clearly, this thing is important to him, so she wants to see why. This looks interesting. Can I still watch? The convoy has been going slow. With all the wagons and the number of people being escorted, it is like a massive traffic jam. Major Sharpe plans to help these refugees get to a safe location, away from the village the dragon destroyed. However, it is taking far longer than he thought, and he is concerned that the dragon might appear soon. As the wagon convoy moves, he cannot help himself from looking at the mirror, with the angle towards the back of the JLTV. In the mirror, he sees that young girl. Alicia told him that the little girl calls herself Selena. As Sharpe looks back, he feels very dumb now showing her that show. She probably had no idea what was going on, and he wonders if he simply scared her more. That is when over the radio, Second Lieutenant Johnson calls out. This is Vanguard 7 Alpha, contacting Vanguard 7 Lead. Over. He notices Johnson urgency in his voice. However, though, this could just be a regular update like last time when a wagon broke down. He looks away from the girl Selena and picked up the radio. This is Vanguard 7 lead. I am reading you. There is a short delay in the reply, with some static. What the hell is that? Andrew asked as he leans forward. Sir, we have a bogey. I think the dragon. Then the radio goes silent. Johnson. Sharpe yells at his radio. But then they all see a large fireball up front of the convoy. The dragon wiped out many wagons. What the fuck is that? Andrew asked, leaning closer to the front window. They all watched the giant inferno appear. The flames consumed 6 wagons in one blast. Suddenly, Sharpe can hear Johnson M2 Browning .50 caliber and MK-47 striker from Randy vehicle. Andrew speaks first. I think they are still alive. His voice sounds like he is struggling to speak. I hear weapons fire. That is when they see the massive dragon that flies past, letting out another breath of fire burning everything in its path. Another 3 wagons suddenly caught ablaze, killing everyone around them. As all 3 of them stare out the window at the blazing inferno, he points to his left to an open field. Andrew, head to the open. We have to draw the dragon away from the convoy. The JLTV gets off the road as Sharpe reaches for the radio. Alicia, grab the stinger. I will tell Randy, team, to set up the javelin. Johnson and we will act as bait so they can kill the bastard, he said in a calm tone. Roger, Major, Alicia said, and go into the back of the JLTV and grab the anti-air weapon. He looks at the open field as he explains the plan to the rest of the team. Studying the landscape, he sees that they have room to move around, so they are not pinned down here. The JLTV moves off the road and into the nearby plains. The vehicle bounces around because of the rough terrain. He gets out of his seat and head into the back. He then opens the hatch that is on the ceiling of the vehicle. He then opens it once it is unlocked. Move aside, dear, Alicia said to Selena. She moves to him and begins to hand him the FIM-92 Stinger. He grabs the Stinger from Alicia, but then looks over to the little girl. He can see that she is terrified of what is going on. No worry, kid. I do this all the time. Go sit in the front seat next to Andrew. Now. Selena starts heading up front to get out of the way. As Selena gets into the front passenger seat, he looks out and sees Johnson vehicle. The 50 caliber is going off. The vehicle is bouncing a little as they start to circle the field. He hears the flame dragon give another roar as it does another flyby. Sir, look, Andrew yells. He looks to the left and his eyes widen with amazement and fear. He sees this massive red beast land on the ground. At first glance, he assumes the flame dragon is 1.5 football fields, maybe 2. All right, he said. Alicia, open the top hatch. I am going up top to take a shot. Tell Johnson that. Rory Mercury jumps out of a wagon she was riding in. She sees the legendary flame dragon, amazed by the fight. In the 961 years she has been on this world, she has never seen the flame dragon before. As she looks around, she sees many wagons on fire and the people that got caught in the strike screaming as they burn to death. She looks back at the flame dragon. The legend said that nothing can beat it, nothing can kill it. All it leaves behind is ash and death. Out in the field, she sees 2 of the strange other-worlders wagons driving around, fighting the flame dragon. She cannot believe that they are trying to fight the monster. She wonders if they do not know nothing can kill it. However, she realizes these other-worlders are not normal. They have strange equipment, and she saw what they did back in the village, helping these people. She is guessing maybe they could pose a challenge to the flame dragon. Rory is standing there watching these strange warriors fight the dragon in their metal wagons, watching as they fire these loud, rapid arrows from their wagons. It is clear, though, that whatever weapons they are using is not having any effect. All the refugees around her are panicking, but also watching the fight. She then looks over to her left and sees the other one of the metal wagons. She sees these 2 strange soldiers come out of it, one holding this long-looking tube. The 2 strange-looking soldiers are yelling at the people around them to get back and give them some room. She sees them setting something up. She looks back at the battle. From one of the metal wagons, this massive arrow-looking weapon came from one of the horses and heads straight to the dragon. The dragon moves away, but the large arrow follows it. She thinks it's an amazing magical ability, but then the dragon uses its fire breath to destroy it. Rory thinks about what is happening. She was able to sneak onto one of the wagons when they were leaving the village. She was planning on killing them there, but was wondering why they were rounding them up. At first, she thought they were enslaving them, but it looked like the villagers were going willingly. Instead of killing these strange-looking soldiers right away, she decided to hitch a ride and see what happens. Seeing this was a good chance to get some good intelligence on these otherworlders before revealing herself. If anything, they should take her to their base camp. There she could kill them all at once and end this. The flame dragon arriving changed her plans. As she watches the battle, she is impressed with what is happening. The weapon they are using and the green metal wagons are nothing like she has seen before. Everything about these people is strange. For some reason, something is telling her to help them, that they are not the enemy. A voice. She then looks over to the two soldiers. Hey, can your magic arrows kill the beast? One of them looks over to her. I don't know if the missile can kill it. That thing is huge, but it will do some serious damage, that is for sure. But it seems that it will just destroy the missile before it hits. This older, more experienced-looking man walks up to her. We need it not to move. It is barely in range as it is. She smiles hearing that. Leave that to me. She realizes that the dragon just needs to be distracted enough for the missile arrow to hit. She then pulls out her halberd and charges down into the battle. Damn, Alicia, do we have another missile? Sharpe comes down from the open hatch. He fired the missile, but the missile went off in a wild direction. A Stinger missile is an infrared homing surface-to-air missile. He is wondering all the intense heat coming from the flame dragon might be messing up the sensor, making it useless. Yeah, just one, Alicia said nervously now. She pulls the last missile out of the box and hands it to him. What are you planning on doing with it? It is worthless against that thing. He takes the missile and thinks. Andrew, slow down for a second. Alicia, contact Bravo to fire when I distract it. They should have the Javelin ready by now. Just like the Stinger, the FGM-148 Javelin is an infrared homing missile. However, it has a far better tracking system, allowing it to hit its target. He is hoping the more advanced guidance/control will be able to bypass the intense heat around the flame dragon and hit it. All Randy needs is one good shot. If the dragon takes off again, then they are all dead. The Javelin is not an anti-air missile, and they are already pushing the range of it. Before Alicia could say anything, he then opens the back door and jumps out. When he hits the ground, he rolls around on the ground and recovers himself. Once he is recovered, he gets on one knee and sets up the stringer, lining up the shot. The dragon currently is facing away as bullets from the other JLTV be firing at it. Then he fires the missile. The Stinger missiles move through the air, but as it gets close it steers away, unable to track through the intense heat. It explodes close to the dragon head, spreading shrapnel all around. The dragon lets out a roar as it feels the shrapnel hit its eye. He stands up and drops the Stinger, being useless now. He grabs his radio, spread out and concentrate fire until the Javelin is ready to fire. I will keep the bastard on me. The flame dragon ignores the .50 caliber fire from Johnson JLTV and looks directly at him. He looks up at the flame dragon. Seeing that he got its attention, he can tell that the dragon is pissed now, and he is perfectly fine with that. The goal was to distract it. Not knowing what else to do, he then pulls out his M1911 Colt pistol, that being the only range weapon he has on him. He aims it and fires, trying to keep the attention on him. He can see the 3 bullets he fires did nothing to its scales. The dragon lets out a painful roar and then release another long fire breath all over the ground. The blast gets closer to his position. Oh shit, he said as he falls back on his ass from the blast. He closes his eyes from the heat as the blast gets closer. The blast goes right by him. The heat is intense, feeling some burns on his arms. The fire breath goes out and then Sharpe looks around, confused about what just happened. He knows he should be dead. No way the dragon could miss him. As he looks up and around, he sees right in front of him is this strange-looking field or shield around him. It reminds him of that shield he saw at that Imperial Camp 1, but this time it is protecting him. It looks like some kind of magical field from some fantasy game or film. Either way, it just saved him from burning to death. The strange shield disappears, and he looks behind him and sees this blue-haired girl in green dress while holding a staff. Both her and the staff are glowing, clearly showing that she did some kind of magic, something that saved his life. She then falls to her knees as she breathes heavily. Hey boy, this feminine voice said. He looks to his right and sees this small-looking girl standing there, about the same size and age as Selena. Kid, what the fuck are you doing down here? This is dangerous. One, the girl said, holding out her index finger towards him. Never call me kid. I am hundreds of years older than you, mortal. I am Rory Mercury, the apostle of Imroy, the demigoddess of war, death, darkness, and love. Rory then looks at him and smirks. I am impressed, mortal. I talked to your friends, and they told me what to do. I will take it from here. As he sits there, he sees Rory spinning herself. Watching her is making him dizzy, but he cannot believe how fast she is going. She has picked up so much speed that he cannot see her anymore. Just a blur. Rory then stops, tossing her halberd towards the flame dragon. It flies through the air as the flame dragon begins releasing its fire breath. The halberd hits the lower mouth of the flame dragon, forcing it to release its fire breath into the sky, away from anyone. He cannot believe what he just saw. A 12-year-old girl just tossed a weapon at least 2 kilometers away and hitting the monster hard enough to deflect its attack. He realizes how little he understands this world. He sees the javelin missile from the Vanguard Bravo team flies. The missile explodes close to the dragon's arm. The blast tore the right arm off the dragon. The flame dragon lets out a loud and painful scream. Besides continuing the fight, the dragon extends its wings and flies away. Sharpe starts to laugh. He cannot believe that they have beaten that bastard. I don't believe it, Rory said. You actually defeated the flame dragon. Not even I can defeat such a monster. Good old US tax dollars there, he replied. He then looks at the girl who called herself Rory. As Rory walks up to him, she looks to be 12 or 13-year-old. She is wearing this black dress with red frills, black stockings supported by garters, and a red boot. Sharpe slowly gets up, leaning on his good knee. Thank you, miss, for the help. You're a brave young girl. She licks her lips and smile. You and your people were the brave ones here, though, and you look good. He looks to Rory, confused by that. Ah, okay. He then looks to the blue-hair girl. And I am happy to assist, strange sir. My name is Lelei Lalina, Lelei said. You did that strange shield thing? He asked. I don't understand, Lelei asked. Who else would do the shield? I am the only mage here. Mage, he said, confused by the term. A magic user. Cool, thank you. Both JLTV drives up to them, and they get out of the vehicles. Major Sharpe, he said to them. My name is Major Sharpe, leader of this unit. Alicia walks up first. Before he could say anything, she slaps him in the face. Never do that again, sir, or I swear I am going to kill you myself, she said angrily. I will be the one who has to report your death, and that will not look good. Ouch! You know I could court-martial you for that, he replied as he places his hand on his cheek. She points right at his face. I dare you to. Now get in the jeep. 33 minutes later. Vanguard 7. The mayor, Rory, and Lelei are gathering around his command vehicle. They are all taking notes on the damage from the battle. Major Sharpe is currently sitting on the back of the wagon, which is right next to his vehicle. Specialist Jerry Williams is currently treating his leg from when he jumped out of the JLTV. Ouch, he mumbles. Stop moving, sir, Jerry said. The damage is very bad, the mayor said. I think 130 people dead. 30 wagons have gone. It is hard to tell. Well, there wasn't much we could do, Randy said. The dragon came out nowhere. We should be lucky that was all who died. This man is correct, Rory said. All of you could be dead. Johnson walks up. Everything checks out, sir. We should be ready to go in 5. The mayor takes off his hat and takes a deep breath. We can no longer follow the old plan. What is that? Johnson asked. We have sustained too many losses, the mayor said. The path seems to be more dangerous now. If we are going to reach Merrill's, then we must leave the old, sick, and wounded. He could not believe what he just heads. So, you are just going to abandon these people? We have no choice, the mayor explains. Anyone who doesn't have a wagon has to find their way. We do not have the means to transport everyone anymore. If the dragon comes back, we all will die. He thinks about that, not liking what he is hearing. He was about to say something, wanting to chew him out and lecture him about responsibility. But right then a sharp pain goes through in his wounded leg. Jerry treats it and applied pain to prevent him from speaking freely. The mayor thanks them for protecting them and walk away. Alicia walks over holding the radio. Vanguard Command is on the horn. They want to speak to you. It is Lieutenant Sarah. Perfect, he said as he takes the radio. He just risked his unit lives just for the major to morally betray him. Therefore, the army said don't get involved. Johnson, get everyone secured as best as you can. This is Major Sharpe, he said. Major, Sarah said. I just for Alicia report. Your orders are to detach from the refugee convoy and head back to base. SAP. He thinks about it and looks around. The mayor is leaving us right now. However, he is leaving about 100 people behind. Sarah takes a breath. I know you are trying to help, sir. However, orders are to wave them off and head back to base. Do you acknowledge it? He looks at everyone as they listen to the conversation. He sees the refugees that been abandoned walking over. He sees Rory and Lelei standing there looking confused about what is happening. He looks over to his vehicle and sees Selena looking through the window. He takes a deep breath. Order confirmed. Roger that, Sarah said. Rory speaks first. What is happening? She said, all happy and confident. We have to leave you all too, Alicia said, not happy by the order. You are kidding? Jerry said, sir, rules of war say that we are responsible for these people. They all look to Sharpe for an answer. He looks back at them all, seeing that everyone waiting for his order. Sharpe then hops off the wagon and look around. He sees all the remaining family members. Many are parentless children or just families with nothing. Based on what he just saw, leaving them will result in certain death. There is no way he could accept that. He raises his hand and waves at everyone. As he expected everyone, the refugees and his ranger look confused. There, I waved at you all. Now we are heading back to base. All of us, rangers, gather up and roll out. You think command would allow that? Johnson asked, speaking freely. Not if we tell them. But we are not abandoning anyone. Get ready to leave in 5. Sharpe quickly responds. Johnson and the other under his command give him a salute and then head out to get everyone ready to leave in their vehicles. V01, Chapter 7, Fort Alnus RM. Fort Alnus. April 27, 2025. Major Sharpe is sitting at a desk, waiting for the brass meeting to begin. Everyone in the briefing room is an officer from the 75th Rangers besides the general. He yawns as he gets little sleep, only getting back the other day. He never knew helping refugees would result in so much paperwork. Thank God he has his team assistant First Lieutenant Sarah rose to help. When he got back, he thought she would be angry at him for disobeying orders. To his surprise, she did not bring it up. While she did not talk to him, she did help get living quarters for the refugees. When he got back from his mission, some of the brass was not that happy about him bringing all those refugees back to base. They said that the military is not in the position to aid these people as they are busy turning Alus Hill into a fortress. They also expressed the concern that one or more could be spies for the enemy, and they have no way to confirm that. Luckily, he was able to make an argument on how they need local support to understand this world. They need people who know the land and the monsters of this region, like the Flame Dragon. To his surprised, Colonel Young and the general agreed with his point of view. One of the officers up front suddenly yells attention. Everyone stands up as the head of the expeditionary force in the special region, Lieutenant General Charlie Stanford, walks in. Please have your seat, Stanford said, as he takes his seat. Everyone in the room does the same. Stanford begins to speak first. I want to start off and say a good job to everyone. Our recon teams so far have suffered no casualties. Vanguard, too, was able to establish good relations with a nearby village south from here. Major Davis, I want your team to follow up on that. Yes, sir, Major Davis Stewart said. Stanford looks down on his sheet, on topics to discuss. Vanguard 3 ran into the Empire troop. If your report corrects. He looks over to Sarah, who to his right. She already knew what he was thinking and slid over a document. He takes it and glances at it. It said Vanguard 3 engaged a company size to the west. They were heading to what they believe might be a town. They were forced to pull back, however. They gave the Empire a massive bloody noise in the engagement. Captain Charles Cassos halfway raises his hand. Yes, sir. We had a brief engagement, but I decided to disengage. It seems like they were on a patrol, but we did not know if there was a larger force coming. The general nods from that response. In this case, the right decision. We will figure that out later and see where they are camped. Colonel Robert will send a recon and force to search and destroy that patrol. Just as a reminder, Rangers, Young said, until the airfield is built, we are all going in blind. There are probably Imperial troops all over the place that we cannot detect yet. Our technology far superior than theirs, however. All you need is one bad day and an ambush. Now for the matter at hand. We all know what happened with Vanguard 7, Stanford said. Everyone already knows what happened. Vanguard 7 brought over refugees back to base and fought off a dragon. nearly getting everyone killed. I want to make it clear, Stanford said. As we go out, we will make friendly relations with the local population, but we are not here to change their ways. Our mission is to prevent a second attack on the homeland. We are not the Salvation Army, one. That is when one of the officers raises his hand. When he was called on, he disagreed with the general. Sir, what is the point then? We should help these people as much as we can, at least as a secondary objective. That is when another officer speaks up. Nope, that is not why we are here. Does anyone remember Afghanistan? We won the war, but then we stayed around for 20+ years. Are we going to do that again? We couldn't change the culture of a group of people on our planet. How can we do it with aliens? They are not aliens. They are humans, someone he cannot identify said. The same officer counters the point in a professional manner. Not all of them. There are dragons, as Major Sharpe dealt with. They are elves, goblins, hybrids of humans and animals and God knows what else. This is not our world. The rules do not apply here. That shut everyone up for a minute. That officer has a good point. This is not our world. The United States is not here to social engineer these people. How could the US do that when there are still issues back on Earth? As he listens to everyone speak, everyone is clearly debating the actions that he helped set. His hands rapidly tap on the desk. He then feels a light touch on his tapping hand. It is Sarah's hand, stopping him from taping his hand. He looks over. If you have something to say, speak up, Sarah said quietly. You don't have to remain quiet all the time. He looks at her, and then looks back at the conversation. He used to not be so quiet, used to be active and open with his opinion. The phrase, walk the talk, he always believed in walking and talking. That is how a man should live by. After some thought, he decided to speak up. He is right about changing them. We are here to protect our world. He is then interrupted by another officer, making the point he was the one that brought this refugee issue to them. But someone else shut him up so he could continue. But this is where I disagree, he said, speaking his mind. We cannot abandon who we are. We cannot abandon our principles and our values just because this world is scary and different. We must show we are not here to conquer them. And we are an alternative to the empire. We are different. Being different has always been our advantage. We are Americans, and we cannot forget what that means. Not again. Everyone understood what that last part meant. In the last 20 years, Americans preferred to tear each other apart, forgetting who we are and what we believe in. The term American is not a race but an idea, a list of basic principles: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He glances over to Sarah and sees her reaction. She looks confused and impressed at the same time, like she was not expecting that. He just ignores her and focuses back on the meeting. Colonel Young replied to him, "That is a very interesting point of view, Major. All of yours. We wanted all of your feedback since you're going on the field. The question is, what should we do with the refugees we have now?" One of the Vanguard team leaders speaks up. "Well, we can send them away. If they run into the Empire, though, they will probably be killed. Why do we have to take care of them?" Another officer said, "What do you mean by that?" Captain Bailey said, "We took them in. It is our duty respond." "That is not what I mean. We are here acting like they are unable to take care of themselves. They clearly can support themselves. All we need to do is provide a hand. They don't need us to babysit them." That last officer responds, "Assuming if our goal is to sit here on our asses," he adds to the debate, "Let's speak plainly. Let's pull out our Wikipedia and see what's around here. While we are at it, Uber Eats anyone?" Sharpe hears a few chuckles from that. He was not trying to be funny, but he enjoyed that. "My point is, we know nothing of this place and world. We have what? 55 different researchers just in the US alone trying to figure all this out? Everything we have on Earth isn't here. We need allies. Farming peasants?" Lieutenant Colonel Kaysen asked in a threatening tone. Sharpe looks forward to Kaysen. He has not known him long, but he can read him. He is a desk officer and nothing more. He has run into his type before, and they never get along. "Last time I checked, peasants defeated the British Empire." He responds in his command tone. "We need allies and people who understand what this world is. We do not even have a map. There is no rule book. We are all literally making this up as we go. That didn't work out last time." "You were talking about those 2 kids you picked up?" Captain Bailey asked. "Yes," he said, leaning forward. "And I wouldn't consider them kids. Lelei, the blue hair girl, knows magic and said she wants to stick around. She saved my life with whatever energy shield that was. And it seems she knows a thing or two about the region. Maybe, but what about the other girl? Riley, Kaysen said. I believe it is Rory Mercury. Young corrects and shoots Kaysen a glare to back off. And I believe she is an apostle of Emroy? Is that how you say it? What is what she said in the interview, sir? Sarah states. Rory Mercury, he said, and thinks back on how she helped. He was amazed by her abilities with her halberd. Rory explained what an apostle is, that each apostle serves the will of their god. They have supernatural abilities. The best term he can think of is a super soldier with faster, stronger, and unnatural abilities. She helped in the battle, allowing his team to use a javelin to blow off the dragon's arm. She did not have to help, and yet she did, and for some reason, he feels that she means good. I will vouch for Rory, he said. She didn't have to help, but she did. Can we trust her? Young asked. As you said, Major, we know nothing of this world. For all we know, she might be working for the Empire. You don't send your muscles to do recon, he said. You use heavy hitters to bring down the door. And I didn't say we don't do basic security, but she helped out. Trust must be earned. But it was hell of a start. We need allies. He then looks back at Sarah, sensing her reaction. Have you seen combat before, sir? Sarah asked quietly, confused by his tone. His tone made it sound like he has experienced everything he said, not a rookie. He looks away, ignoring the question. Stanford speaks up. I agree. We cannot hold everyone's hand. If we are going to help people, they need to help themselves. We will work on details on setting up a location for them to call home. However, though, this is not an invitation to bring everyone you see. Only people who are willing to aid us or are facing persecution. Any questions? As everyone settles down a little, knowing the plan, there will be no new questions on this topic. All right, Young said. The final part of today's brief is that some of our fellow NATO allies will be coming. The Canadians and the British Royal Marines will be here in a week. The French and the Japanese will be arriving by the end of the month. As the general stands up, one of the officers yells, "Attention!" Everyone then stands up and salutes, and the meeting ends. After the meeting, Major Sharpe is heading out of the building. Captain Bailey is by his side. Nice job, sir. Glad you can still be a smartass when you want to. I think I pissed off the lieutenant colonel, he said. Bailey pats him on the back. What else is new? I just cannot believe you took on a lion in hand-to-hand combat, said Bailey. That fight was all everyone could talk about at the officer lounge. You should come by once in a while. He can picture the conversation. They all must be trying to figure out how there may be walking and talking lions, plus fighting one. Major. Both stop and see Sarah walk out of the building and come towards them. Looks like you are in trouble, Bailey said with a chuckle. I know you struggle to integrate, but I'm glad you are here, Sharpe. We need you. He watches Bailey walk away and then look at Sarah. Yes, Lieutenant? Sarah stands tall and looks directly at him. I need to get this off my chest. When you decided to bring the refugees here, why didn't you tell me? Don't you trust me? He takes a breath as he tries to think of a response. If I reported my situation and requested to bring them back, it would have been denied. You heard the lieutenant colonel would want to take the burden. Most likely, yes, but I am asking you why you didn't tell me? Sarah asked again. I can't help you if I don't have all the information. If you leave out details, then I cannot trust you. That will put the team at risk, and I will not allow that. He could not disagree with anything she said. He has the same rule, and he broke it. It was not about him not trusting her. I apologize, Lieutenant. Good, Sarah said and then smiles. By the way, I approve of what you did and said back there. I just wish you gave me the chance to show that. Now I have to go, Sarah said. I recommend you go check out your new friends. He then sees her walk off, not allowing him to say anything. As he watches, he grabs his shaking hand. He then shakes his head. Damn it, Sharpe. As he leaves, he gets a message from his medic, Jerry. Sir, Jerry said, I am done with the girl Selena. She is weak, but will be fine. He takes a relaxing breath. That's good. Good job, specialist. He then wonders why he called him over the radio. Is everything okay? I am ready to discharge her, sir, Jerry said. But who do I discharge to? Sharpe did not think about that. She has no parents or guardians to take her in. Right now, she is an orphan. He thinks about leaving her with the other refugees, but the idea does not sit well with him. She is a weak girl who has been abused. While he does not know much about tribal society, he doubts the refugees will watch her. They might agree just to show a positive face, but long run she will always be an outsider. He then thinks about the girls he met, Rory and Lelei. From what they told him, Rory is a traveler and Lelei only went into town to get supplies. He wonders if they will take care of her until he can figure something else out. Specialist, he said, keep her there. I will come and pick her up. Lelei Lalina is in her tent. She is standing by the door looking up at the ceiling. Wow. When the convoy got to Alnus, it was late at night. What is called the army engineers set up these wooden shacks for the refugees to live in. Inside the shacks are beds and changing areas. An hour ago, the army installed a light bulb on the ceiling. They said they can flip this switch at night, and it will lighten up the room. She had no idea what that meant. The engineer assumed that she would understand what that term means. I think it is evil, Rory said, looking at the light bulb. It is not evil, she replied. They all have this light in their buildings. It is like a torch you can flip on, but without the fire. At least the fire keeps you warm, Rory replied. She then looks out the window. I have been to many places and seen many different things, but this. These people have so many strange things. As Rory talks, she flips the switch again. When she flips the switch down, the light turns off. When she flips the switch again, the light comes on. She is trying to figure out how it works, and nothing she has learned from her teaching from the city of Rondell can explain this. To her, the light is baffling, confusing, and amazing at the same time. I don't understand, she mumbles as she gazes at the light. How did they master this? It reminds me of when staff starts to glow before a magic spell, Rory said. I thought so, she responds as she flips the switch again. But I don't think each one of these bulbs is orbs. There are too many of them. At first, Lelei thought the light bulb was an orb like the blue orb on top of her staff. After a short debate in her head, she decided that could not be. She came to the conclusion that these people don't seem to know what magic is, which is baffling to her. Their world does not have magic, which she is struggling to understand how that is possible. Hey Lelei, Rory asked as she checks out the bed. What do you think of all this? She thinks about the question for a moment. I have been a student at Rondell for a long time, and I have never seen anything like this. If the research sages were here, I do not think they know where to begin. I mean, metal-moving horses. Even their clothes are so different. And their weapons, Rory adds. What they call missile launchers was amazing. I have seen many kinds of ballista, but nothing like that. She looks at Rory. I saw that. It took off the flame dragon arm like it was nothing. I was very impressed by that too, Rory replied. I wonder what else they might have. I saw those armored wagons. I think they call them tanks, she corrects. Yeah, Rory continues. I have been wondering what else they might have. If that missile launcher is for their basic infantry, then by the gods, what else do they have? She looks at Rory after hearing that question. Up to this point, she never considered what other possibilities these otherworlders might have. The city of Rondell is considered a wealth of knowledge. The smartest minds on Falmart live there doing research, and yet these people have an understanding beyond them. She then hears a knock on the door and looks over. Hey, Rory. It is the major from the battle. She then walks over and opens the door. She sees Sharpe standing there, and in his arms is that girl he saved from those slave traders. Is everything okay, Major Sharpe? Yes, Sharpe said. Can you two keep an eye on her? She looks at the girl and sees bandages around her. She looks tired but clean. While she didn't see it, she heard that this man saved this girl from becoming a slave. Every town she went to, passing traders, mine, and so on has slaves in some manner. Even Rondell has slaves, very few compared to most cities, but even they need them. She cannot believe that Sharpe would free a slave for no reason. I will be happy to. She then turns around and looks at Rory. Is that okay with you, Rory? Rory walks over and looks at Sharpe carefully and then at the girl. What is your name? The girl looks at her. Selena, she said in a tired voice. Rory then lets out a big smile. You are among friends here, little one. She then looks up at Sharpe. Yes, she can. Sharpe walks into the shack and walks over to an empty bed. He then lays Selena on the bed. All right, just lay down here and relax. She walks over. Don't worry, we can watch over here. Sharpe turns around and looks at them both. All right, is everything okay? I know it isn't much, but it is the best we can do. You are kidding? Rory asked as she places her hand on her hip. You consider this basic? You have glowing orbs that we can control. Sharpe said, and he glances up at the light bulb. I guess that is cool, but okay. If there is anything you need, just ask. The mess hall is that building over there, past that barracks there. It is open from 0900 to 1800. I have no idea what that last part means, Rory said. She looks at Rory. It is a set of time. You see the numbers represent us of the day by the digits they use. And how he said those numbers also implied that. I am assuming you operate flare-up to flare-down like us, so that means 0900 is in the morning and 1800 is in the evening. The only thing I don't understand is the arrangement of the numbers. Sharpe looks at her impressed. Damn, you pay attention. She smiles hearing that, glad to get the compliment from him for some reason. My goddess is La, the goddess of learning. I can learn things quickly if I try. Huh, could have used that back in high school, he said. We will have to talk about these god stuff soon. But right now if you need anything just ask me. Stay away from the military equipment and just stay inside the refugee camp. Will do, Major, she replied. But I was hoping to see more of your people. Everything seems so different. Sharpe is hesitant to respond. I will see what I can do, but remember, this is a military base. Sharpe then turns around and looks at Selena. And you. They will keep an eye on you. No one is going to come and take you. Sharpe looks back at Rory and her and nods. Thanks. He then walks out of the shack. She watches Sharpe leave and closes the door. What a strange man. I agree, Rory said. She looks over to Rory and she is in deep thought. She has never seen an apostle before, let alone sleep in the same building. Being 16 years old, she does not have a lifelong experience like Rory does. If there is anyone's opinion, she can trust it should be her. Rory, what do you think? Are we safe? Can we trust them? Rory looks at her and then at Selena. I have seen many things, many people, many cultures. I don't fully know, but my heart tells me something is different. Rory then walks over to Selena. She sits down on the bed and places her hand around Selena. She then moves some hair off Selena's face. Life is always the strong ruling and dominating over the weak. That is the law of nature. Even the kindest of hearts obey that law. That is just how it is. She then looks into Selena's eyes. But yet these Americans put their lives at risk. I don't expect purity, but these people seem to have broken the law. Only time will tell. But the real question is, can we trust him? V01. Chapter 8 First Night RM. Fort Alnus. April 28, 2025. Sharpe wakes up all sweating and breathing heavily. He takes a look around and sees that he is in the passenger seat. He looks around as he tries to remember where he is at. He looks at his watch, and it said 0147. He then sees the strange glow from the gate. It is not bright or distracting, just an alien-like glow. Damn it. He grabs his helmet and gets out of the jail TV. He sees his rangers in their beds asleep, the only one who is awake because he is on guard duty. Morning, sir, Scott said. Morning, Scott, he replied. You are up early, sir, Scott comments. Is there anything you need? He looks at Scott and then looks away. Stay on guard duty. If anyone needs me, I will be on the western line. He walks through the base. While the only source of light is the half moon and the power generation lights everywhere, it is dark. Besides that, it is pretty dark. He passes the British and Canadian sections of the base as he heads to the refugee section. They are the first NATO allies to arrive in this world and are establishing their base of operations. He gets to the refugee section and sees the building he wants to check on. He nearly got to the door but stops himself. Don't get attached, Sharpe. He then walks away, heading to the western outer perimeter. Currently, the outer perimeter is made up of a trench system around the gate, 3 kilometers out in one large circle. This style of defense is only temporary until the military is ready to build a more permanent base. He gets to this spot on the line that is being guarded by 2 2nd Division soldiers. Good evening, sir, one of the soldiers said. It is morning, Corporal, he responds. How is the line? Boring, sir, the corporal said. Good, he replied. Keep a good eye out there, though. We have no idea what is out there. Now excuse me. He starts walking down the line until he finds a spot where he is alone. Once alone, he then takes off his helmet and sits down. He looks out and only sees darkness. The only light is the moon and stars. He can feel his hand tapping his knee as he feels stressed out. I don't know if I can do this again. He takes a deep breath and pulls out his M1911 Colt pistol. He holds it in his hand and looks at it. Rory Mercury looks out the window of the shack. It seems like my little soldier is awake, but he seems to be struggling. She sensed Sharpe coming over, but saw him leave, which confused her. She has been curious about this man's sense of the town. She looks over to Selena as she sleeps. While she is not one of her worshippers, she has made a vow to protect her. She thinks back to the town. While Sharpe thought he was alone, she watched him confront those 4 men. She thought he was crazy to fight them, especially a lion, all for a slave girl too. She decided to watch and see what happens, and she was impressed by the results. Watching him carry Selena away in his arms, she thought he claimed her as his property. However, that idea did not sit well with her because she felt something was different. He ordered his team to help the people evacuate when he had no reason to. "Time to get the truth," she mumbles. She leaves the shack and then jumps. She lands on the roof of the next shack. She then jumps again, passing 4 shacks and softly lands on another roof. Being an apostle, she has superhuman abilities like enhanced strength, speed, agility, and regeneration. All are needed in the name of her god Emroy. She gets to the last building and sees a large gap between her and the line. Now where is he? She closes her eyes and places her hand on her chest. She then starts to feel for him. After a few moments, she finally senses his soul, but she does not like what she feels. The presence of Palapon, the god of revenge. She rushes over to his location. She sees him sitting there looking at something, but she can tell that something is wrong. While it has only been a few days since she met him, she has already learned a lot about him. He prioritizes other people's safety and well-being over himself. He is brave to the point of fault, and what she finds interesting is that he is a soldier, but he is independent. He finds ways to obey his orders, but do what is right. In all her time in this world, she has found it interesting that battle brings out the true side of a man. She sees phony people all the time just living their lives, but a soldier who is putting everything on the line. She has seen their true sense of who they are. She walks up behind Sharpe and sees the gun in his hand. She saw him pull that weapon out and fired it at the flame dragon. It did not affect the dragon. She is not even certain the projectile even hit the beast, but it did show her that he did not fear the dragon. She walks up and then jumps on top of his lap without warning. "Ouch," Sharpe said, shocked by what just happened. She looks at him, studying him. "Are you an agent of Palapon?" Sharpe looks at her, confused by the question. "Who the hell is Palapon?" "Answer the question, Major," she replied. She looks closely into his eyes, wanting to see how his soul said. "How can I answer the question if I don't know who Palapon is, Rory?" Sharpe said. She sees that Sharpe tries to push her off. She grabs his hand and stops him. She can see the confusion in his eyes, how a young-looking girl like her ability to overpower a well-trained adult male. "I want to know if I can trust you," she responds. Rory watches Sharpe now looking at her, very directly. To her surprise, he looks at her like he is in control of this situation. She wonders if he still does not understand what an apostle is, or if he doesn't care. "You want to know if you can trust me?" Sharpe restates the question. The answer is no. She is surprised to hear that response. She was expecting him to say yes and give her some standard reason on why he is the good guy. "Trust is something that needs to be earned," Sharpe continues. "People like to give out trust like throwing candies, but when real issues arrive, they fly like fleas. Trust needs to be earned, built from the ground up, so when you are in the trench, surrounded by the enemy, the person beside you will still be there. So, you cannot trust me because we just met, just like I cannot trust you. Your question should be, should we learn to?" She blinks, surprised by that answer. She thinks about his response. "If you don't trust us, then why did you save all those people?" "Your world attacked mine," Sharpe states. "My people want payback, but that doesn't mean we have a free pass to do what we want. What is the point in coming here if we are just going to bomb everything? I want to win, but I want a victory that matters. The only way to do that is to be better than our enemies." "Better?" she asked. "What is the point of winning the war if nothing changes?" Sharpe continues. "So, let me ask you this. You are a fine girl who can take care of herself. Why are you here? Why are you not fighting against us?" She smiles. "Because I do not support the Empire. They have reigned over these lands for long enough." She then let go of his hand and places it on her chest. "Long ago, when I was 12, I was chosen by my god Emroy. The gods of our world cover many responsibilities." "You said that before," Sharpe said. "What does that mean?" "Emroy is the god of darkness, war, violence, insanity, crime, execution, love, and death, and all related in what I said," she said, arms crossed as she smiles. "I go around my world spreading the will of Emroy, Interesting, Sharpe said. She then takes a breath and looks away. Let me guess you think I am evil or something. She thinks that because she is known as Rory the Reaper, death follows her wherever she goes, which does not bother her. However, it is a reason why she usually travels alone. Many people see her as someone who brings death to her, while she believes Emroy represents the reality of the world, and she chooses to see it in a positive way. Most see her in a negative way. That is why she is known as the Reaper. If you want to see it like that, Sharpe replied. She glares at him. Why don't you ever speak plainly? Because it isn't Tuesday, sweetheart, Sharpe replied and gives her a wink. Most would see all that as an act of evil, but those same people who rarely have to fight or put themselves on the line. Stating the obvious, but I am a soldier. You must be insane to leave a warm bed and food to go fight in another country. You do what you must to protect the ones you care about. She giggles at him, avoiding the word love. All her life, she always found it strange that men avoid terms like that. She always heard that words like that were not too manly enough, or dumb excuses like that. She finds it interesting that Sharpe's world is similar. Do you mean to protect the ones you love? She corrects. That and more, Sharpe replied. As I said, she replied. I want to help people in my world. Not the powerful, not the nobles or the royals. Just the people. I think you people have the same goals as me. I think you have the same goals as me. Rory looks at him closely, feeling the presence of Palapon fading. She can sense a conflict in him, a deep pain. While she does not know she can fully trust these people, yet she can see that she can trust his actions. Sharpe is not an agent of Palapon. Not because he does not know who Palapon is, but his actions. However, she does wish to know who he is an agent of. She then hears footsteps coming and looks over. Two soldiers walk up, both being Alicia and Scott. Sir, Alicia said, command is on the horn and needs. What is going on here? Are you two doing it? Scott asked. She looks up at Scott, finding it a strange question. She then looks at herself and then Sharpe, realizing that she is sitting on his lap. From their point of view, they look like they are getting a little too intimate. She then smirks as she gets an idea. She places her hand on her forehead and leans back. Oh, thank you. This man wanted to thank me in the battle, but I think there was something in the drink he gave me. I think he seduced me, and the next thing I knew I was here on his lap. Sir, Alicia said. Sharpe looks to his rangers and then at her with a smirk. All true. I seduced her. To be honest, I didn't even have to try. The easiest seduction I ever had. I even got bored. Too easy. Hearing that, she slaps him across the cheek. You prick. You were not supposed to agree with me. You were supposed to beg for forgiveness and beg me not to tell anyone. Sharpe places his hand on his cheek. 1. Ouch. 2. If you cannot stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. I play to win. Sharpe then winks at her and gets up and walks past his rangers. She stands up, unable to believe that he challenged and defeated her at her own game. Prick. I was supposed to win. This is war. What the fuck just happened? Scott asked, confused. Rory, Alicia said in a concerned voice. Do you need help? Did he assault you? If he tried to assault me, I would have easily killed him, she responds, brushing off Alicia's concern. He just won this round. Ah, shit, there are two of you now, Alicia mumbles. I'm going back to bed. V01. Chapter 9 Demonstration RM. Fort Alnus. April 31st, 2025. Lelei is holding what the Americans call a blueberry muffin. It is a soft, fat, and fluffy bakery food with berries in it. When she first arrived in Rondell long ago, she could not believe all the amazing design of bakery product there. She was born in the Rurudo nomad tribe. Everything had to be hunted and cooked back then. Her people did not believe in settling down in a single location. So, Rondell had so many luxury foods she never could imagine. But now, she finds the American bakery is even far more luxurious than the best Rondell baker. Rory said to herself, enjoying her muffin. How do you think they make it stand so tall? She asked as she analyzes it. And make it so fluffy. Dark magic, Rory responds, enjoying herself. She looks at Rory. Do you think so? Rory looks at her and bursts out laughing. Of course not. Just eat it. It is tasty. As she eats her muffin, she looks around as she waits for Sharpe. He asked them all to be here by the gate at it being midday, or these otherworld warriors call it, 10:35. It has been 3 days since Vanguard 7 escorted the refugees to Alus Hill. When she got there, she was amazed by what she saw. They have massive, armored weapons called tanks. So much of their equipment made from this strange metal, showing how wealthy they are. The other thing she noticed was the area around Alnus. Thousands of bodies and beasts all over the place. It is clear Alus Hill became a bloody battleground. Based on the Americans' appearance and lack of concern, they did not suffer many casualties. With her time with Sharpe fighting against the Flame Dragon, she can believe how deadly their weapons are. Having these people as enemies seems like suicide. And then there is Major Sharpe. What he did was very brave. Helping those people, that was very out of character for most people in Falmart. He and his people are soldiers, but they do not act like soldiers. For some reason, she feels safe around him. She looks to her left and sees Selena standing there. While they are the same age physically, that is where the similarities end. But she still agreed to watch over the girl for Sharpe. It is the least she can do for helping the townsfolk and giving her a place to sleep. It is fascinating, isn't it, Selena? Rory asked, referring to the gate. Selena looks at her. She still looks nervous and slightly scared. That is how they come here? That is correct, she replied. The legend about the gate is true, but I am surprised that the gate has appeared. My master Cato L. Alteston has told me stories of the gate, she said. Stories about a gate that appears, and life or death comes through it. I never thought I would ever see such a thing. Yeah, but smaller than I expected, Rory responds. But yeah, all good things are usually smaller than expected. She looks at Rory, trying to understand the hidden meaning. All she sees is Rory chuckling, as she is standing there by the fence, watching as the soldiers bring cargo through the gate. As a thank you from Major Sharpe for helping in the battle against the dragon, Lelei and her were given their own tent with some special rights on the base. Selena was also assigned to their shack, so I could protect her while he was not around. Selena tugs on her blue and green robe and then points to the large boxes. Yes, Selena, she said. I noticed a lot of those recently. I think they are cargo boxes. It looks like these people are moving in to stay, Rory points out. But I don't think they are ready for our world. She looks at Rory confused. What do you mean? They seem to have so much power. Rory looks at her. They are probably the most powerful force on Falmart right now, but power isn't enough. These people are new to these lands and our ways. They are also angry. I was talking to Sharpe, and he didn't even know who Palapon was. I see what you mean, she said. I also noticed that they don't know the basics of our world. I was talking to the big man named Randy, and he said there are no monsters in their world, just humans. Correct, Rory replied. While I am admiring their bravery, they seem to be like children. They didn't even know what magic was until a few days ago, she added. But what are you saying, Rory? Rory looks over. I have seen good men before. Even the Empire has good men. However, even the best of men can be corrupted over time, especially when they face the unknown. I do believe these people when they say they want to help, but Sharpe was right. Rory continues. How can they help if they do not know this world? What is basic for us is so foreign to them. I bet they say the same about us, she adds. Should we help them? Rory hesitates to respond, gathering her thoughts. If they let me, I will. I cannot allow their rage for the Empire to turn them into another empire. They need guidance until they can learn and understand our world. So, they are like big children? Selena asked, trying to be part of the conversation. Rory laughs hearing Selena say that. Yes, for now though. She then sees Major Sharpe and this other woman walks up. Hello girls, Sharpe said. This is First Lieutenant Sarah Rose. She is one of my co-workers, and if you need anything while I am off base you can get to her. Hello girls, Sarah said. You must be Lelei. You must be at Rory. In revealing clothes, I see. No wonder the Major tried to play a fast one on you. She laughs and poses a little. At first sight of me, men just lose all control. You know I am standing right here, Sharpe said. I know, Sarah responds. She then lowers herself to Selena's height. And you must be Selena. You are so cute. Are you feeling better? Selena nods her head and then shyly glances up at Sharpe. What is the plan? She asked. You are welcome to come inside, Sharpe said. The Colonel and General would like to have a word with you too. Please follow us. She grabs Selena's hand and follows the two. Major, she said, what are those metal things over there? Those are helicopters, Sharpe responds. Blackhawks, part of the 101st Division. Helicopters allow us to fly through the sky, Sarah adds. It is like a flying wagon. She thinks for a moment after hearing that. So, It is like a wyvern but metal, like everything else they have. Very interesting. She could not believe what they said. The Empire specializes in such abilities as its wyvern core and dragon riders. It is one reason how they became the dominant power of Falmart. It takes years to train a wyvern to obey human commands, and only a select few can ever be able to fly. Even in her long life, she has only flown a few times. Based on how calm Sharpe and Sarah responded, it sounds like the flight is normal to them. She also sees about 10 soldiers standing around a box, all dressed very well. She sees them pick up the box and start loading it into one of the vehicles. She also sees a flag over the box, stars, and strips. What is that over there? Sharpe looks at her. They are sending back one of our fallen soldiers. I don't have the details, but the soldier walked into a monster nest. Bad way to go. You value the dead bodies? Rory asked. We leave no one behind. Dead or alive, everyone has the right to go home, Sharpe said. Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore, 1966. And what is that flag? She asked. That is our country's flag, Sarah adds. Our country isn't a normal country. It is a union of 52 states, all united under a republic. The stars each represent the states in our union, showing we are united. The 13 strips have two meanings, Sharpe continues. The first 13 colonies, or as states today. Red represents valor and strength, white represents innocence and purity, and blue represents perseverance and justice. We out a flag to honor our fallen as they go home. Rory liked that a lot. During battles, I collect the fallen souls of soldiers who died. I help guide those souls to Imroy so they souls can be protected by the other gods, so they can rest in peace like a warrior should. I find it respectable how you treasure the fallen. She sees these two men standing there. They seem to be talking about something important, but she cannot tell what. Once they arrived, Sarah introduced the girls to the Tume, one being Lieutenant General Charles Stanford, the leader of the newly established NATO Expeditionary Force. The other is Colonel John Young, leader of the Rangers here. I like to say thank you for helping Major Sharpe and his team out there, Young said. You are all welcome to stay here until something better, Stanford said. I must ask you all to remain in the refugee zone until we can clear out a new area for you and the others. Hold up, Rory said as she holds out her hand. I am not going to sit around and do nothing. I will go crazy. I want to help. You need me. I had a feeling you were going to say this, but we cannot, Stanford said. For one, this is the U.S. Army. We don't accept kids into our ranks. And with all due respect, General, but I am not a kid, Rory said, crossing her arms. When I was 12, Imroy picked me, but that was 960 years ago. I am stronger, faster, smarter, and let's face it, prettier too. There are threats to this world that you do not understand. You think I am the only one of my kind out there? She takes a step forward. Excuse me, but I am not a child. I am 16. My master is Cato L. Alteston, and I am his student. My upbringing was a nomad life, so I know how to pull my weight. And I notice you do not have mages, so I think you need me. It is not that we don't understand what you are, Rory, Young said. It is more that we cannot be seen putting people like you within our ranks. While I understand your gifts, my people back home will not. To put it frank, we need time to see if there is a role for you, Stanford said. She then sees Sharpe look to the officers, about to say something. Stanford looks at Sharpe and holds out his hand, warning him not to speak. Look, Major, Stanford said, I understand your feelings. You of all people know we do not act as rogue agents. We do need locals' help, but putting them into combat side by side shouldn't be the way. As she watches the debate, she is baffled by the age part. She does not understand why these people brought up her age and Rory's size. She has been working and in danger since she was born. She has seen children in Legion, Knights, and militias all the time. Now that she thinks about it, she has yet to see a child here within the American ranks at all. Everyone is an adult. The only odd thing is the number of female soldiers she sees. While still a minority, she is impressed by the large amount. Based on the conversation, it sounds like the two commanders just do not know what to do with Rory and her. As Rory said before, she is starting to see the immaturity these people are. She can tell they come from a wealthy and safe place. As she looks around, she notices extra activities by the gate. She sees one of the big cargo trucks suddenly driving backwards into a wall of crates. About 4 crates start falling over in 3 directions. Soldiers all around start to panic and run. She holds up her staff. The orb on it glows blue. The falling crates stop right before it hits the ground. There is this blue enemy flow around all 4 crates, hovering. She moves her staff, guiding the crates. She is sweating as she feels the stress and weight of the crates. What is in those? Rory. On it, Rory said. Rory then quickly rushes over to the crates. She grabs the largest one and lowers it. She keeps doing that until everything is on the floor. She takes a deep breath as she feels the stress gone. Suddenly, she sees this canteen in front of her. Good job, kid, Sharpe said. Drink up. She takes the canteen smiling. She starts drinking and can see them all talking. Sarah, Young, and Stanford. Plus, everyone in the area is looking at her with these shock eyes. What? Those were high explosives, Sarah said. They could have killed us all. What did you do? Young asked. She looks around. The only one who isn't in pure shock is Sharpe. She sees him give a supportive nod, signaling her that it is okay to speak. I just used my telekinesis to stop the crates. You're kidding? Sarah said, shocked. You mean mind powers? You can just look at something and take control of it? That is a crude way of saying it, Lieutenant Sarah, but close, she replied. But don't worry, I cannot just control you. Controlling a living person's movement is way too hard. Only the most skilled archmages can do that, and even then, it is a large mana drain. Yang then looks to Rory as Rory walks busy over, brushing her hands soft. Rory glances at Yang and Stanford and smirks. I love to see your big brave soldier boys do that. Those had to be like 500 pounds, Yang said. Maybe more. Did you lift them so easily? Superhuman strength, Colonel, Sharpe said and walks between everyone. He looks towards the girls. Thank you very much. Sharpe then looks to his superiors. Look, sirs, we need help. I know it isn't standard protocol, but what is standard right now? Are we here to win, or are we here to show off for 20 years? She can see Yang and Stanford looking at her and Rory. From what she can tell that they both left an impression on them. All right, Major, Yang said. We will do it your way, however, they are your responsibility. Sharpe salutes and nods. Thank you, sir. I will even do the paperwork. Oh, please, Sarah said. Sharpe looks at her and smirks. What? I am. This will be fun, but don't worry. I won't do any edits. I rely on you for that. She blinks, not fully understanding what is happening. So, we are allowed to help. Sharpe smirks. Yes. Both of you can tag along, however, you have to obey my commands. Do we have an understanding? She smiles and nods. Yes, Major. I guess I can listen, Rory said. When I feel like it. Well, I better start getting everything ready, Sarah said. Good day to you all and welcome to the team. V01, Chapter 10 RM. Fort Alnus. May 3rd, 2025. Major Sharpe is in his makeshift office in this large tent. All around are the other Vanguard teams, both the leaders and logistic officers. To his left is 2nd Lieutenant Charles Johnson, and to his right is 1st Lieutenant Sarah Rose, each doing their paperwork. He is typing on his laptop, making both Rory Mercury and Lelei Lalina becomes officially part of the team. He does not fully understand why he went along with it. Just the other night, he wanted to stay away from the 3 girls. He is convinced that they stay around him, they will end up dead. Rory said that she cannot die, being an apostle, that her body can regenerate and reattach body parts. However, he instantly came up with a dozen ways for her to be tortured without killing her, all of them worse fate than death. But after Rory and him spent that night together on the perimeter one, the other day he feels like he can lead this team. For 3 months he has had confidence issues in his leadership abilities, and now for the first time, he feels like he has a chance. He sees his inbox and finds it full of messages. He opens it and sees some memos, most from what is going on in the war. He sees some personal messages by some friends which he ignores them all. He looks up and sees Sarah walks up, carrying a box. Sarah drops the box on his desk. Damn, this is heavy. What is in here? He looks at the big box. I could have gotten it. I might have a pretty face, Major, but that doesn't mean I cannot lift things, Sarah said with a smirk. What is in it? Books, he replied. What kind of books? Sarah asked. He leans back in his chair and looks at Sarah. Some history books, ancient China, Europe. Cultural books like guns, germs, and steel. I have heard of that book, Sarah said, by Jared Diamond. It is about how 2 different civilizations make contact. He explains how if one civilization is able to produce more goods, being more advanced, is able to beat and control a less advanced one. Whoever can make more goods usually wins. Good pick, sir, I read it once at West Point back in 2013, he responds. I figured I should reread it while I am here. I didn't know you were an intellectual, sir, Johnson asked, leaning over his desk. He looks over. Those are fighting words, Lieutenant. No way in hell I am one of those pencil pushers who make millions of dollars to write books. Totally, Sarah said in a sarcastic tone. You just jump out of airplanes on $6 grand a month. Yup, he said that with pride. He then glances away as he realizes how dumb that arrangement is once you put thought behind it. Anyway, if we are going to deal with these people, best to get educated on their ways. Assuming those books are correct, Johnson said. All their examples are based on Earth, not this world. True, he mumbles. Still better than nothing. Harper always said be smart. Sarah opens up the box and then pulls out a manga. This is educational material? I also asked Andrew to give me a list of material I should look at, he responds. Never know what might come in handy. Sarah schemes through the book and then shows him a picture of a mostly naked female knight. Educational material? He shrugs. Never know, Lieutenant. Johnson laughs and then he starts laughing. Sarah rolls her eyes but chuckles too. Am I bothering you all? He looks past Sarah and sees the blue-hair girl Lelei. No, you are not. Come on in. He sees Johnson getting back to work and Sarah leaving to sit down at her desk. Lelei walks up and the first thing she notices is the books on his desk. What are these? They are books, he replied, confused by the question. Lelei picks on up, amazed by them. There are stories in these? Yes, he replied. Wow, Lelei said. My older sister is a part-time scribe. She has to use ink and write everything by hand. She then opens one of the books. How do you people write so perfectly and so small? I have never seen so much perfection in writing before. These must be a fortune. You must be rich. No, Lelei, I am not rich, he replied. If I were, I wouldn't be on an alien planet. And no, those are made by a machine. The stories were written by people but printed by machines. She is amazed by how amazed Lelei is by this. It makes him think about how much his people take things for granted. Something so simple as a book must be a treasure for her. The book in your hand is Tagana by Guy Gavriel K., he said. Keep it. I have plenty of other books to catch up on. Lelei takes the book and holds it close. Thank you. He nods. So, what brings you here? Everything okay? Lelei nods in response. Yes, sir. I just have a question. What is it? He said. Why haven't you collected the dragon scales off the battlefield? Lelei asked. He looks at her confused. We've already collected some scales, equipment, and other items of interest. They all were sent back to Earth for research. DARPA, too, is running tests on the... But that is it. Why are you asking? Tests? Lelei said. They are very valuable, and I see hundreds of them out there. He thinks about that. He is not an economics major, but from what he knows, the scale has no real commercial or industry value back in the States. Maybe as an exotic luxury good once the war is over. Sarah? From the recent memo, we have already went out there and collected everything we wanted, Sarah said. As the major said, most of it was sent back through the gate for research. As for now, we have no economic need for these scales. Are they of value? Does that mean I can go out and collect them? Lelei asked. That will be okay, right? I don't want to steal. He thinks about the question and smiles. Well, thank you very much for asking. If you want to go collect some, be my guest. Thank you, Major, Lelei said. Can I ask you something, Lelei? He said. What are you going to do with them? Well, there is a town up north, Lelei said. It is about a 5-day ride by wagon. What is the town? He asked. You don't know Italica? Oh yeah, you wouldn't, Lelei said, but then corrects herself. Italica is a famous trading town. They are an especially important trading town within the Empire. Then no, Lelei, he said. He is confused by why she wants to go to an imperial city after joining his side. If they know you are with us, then you're dead. I don't think so, Lelei said. Unlike most of the Empire, Italica is known to be exceedingly kind. They treat others with far great respect. As long as we don't come with the intent to fight, they will open up their gates to trade. Colt Formal is an honorable man with an honorable house. Also, Lelei continues, if they know we came to trade dragon scales, they will want to collect them. And you said your mission is to make contact with more towns. Italica will be a good start. He leans back in his chair and thinks. He is impressed by Lelei's logical mind. He has started to notice that she thinks through everything, almost to a fault. Everything she said makes complete sense. All right, Lelei, spend the day collecting your scales. We will all go to Italica to make the first contact. He then looks at Sarah. Lieutenant starts with the MRF-3. I like to leave in 2 days. All right, Major, Sarah said, and we'll have it done by the end of the day. He then looks to Johnson. Lieutenant Johnson, get 2 of our guys to escort Lelei out there. I don't want them going out there alone. Thank you, Major, Lelei said. As she is about to leave, she stops herself and looks back at him. One more thing. I am going to start taxing your questions and requests, he said, joking. What is it? Selena has been wanting to talk to you, Lelei said. She has just been too shy to speak. She wanted to come in here to say hi, but she got scared and walked away. He noticed Selena by the gate with Rory and Lelei yesterday. He noticed that she did not say a word, like she was hiding. While he does not want to say it publicly, he has been avoiding her. Not because of her, more because of his reasons related to himself. Thank you for telling me, Lelei, he said. I will go see her. Okay, Lelei said. I am going to go with Rory and head out to the field. Alicia and Andrew will meet you at the gate tomorrow at 14:30, Johnson said. They will be your escort. Thank you, Lieutenant and Major, Lelei said. Are you going to go see her? Sarah asked. Sharpe thinks about that question. He has mixed feelings on the matter. For one thing, he is an officer of the U.S. Army who is at war. He could die at any point, and the last thing he wants is to get involved in Selena's life just for him to be snatched away. On top of that, he does not feel like he could be a good influence or role model. She is going through a hard time in her life, and he has no idea how to help her. He also sees that he will be the death of her, so the best chance is for him to maintain distance for her safety. However, some part of him wants to keep an eye on her, to help her and be there. He has been around many kids while during his time in the army, and he has never felt this need before, and he does not want to lose this feeling. Yeah, he said as he stands up. He grabs his cap and glasses. For some reason, he sees Sarah smiling, strangely looking at him. Lieutenant? Nothing, sir. Sarah responds as she looks back at her computer. I will take care of everything for you. You brought her here, so you do have some responsibility towards her. Only until I find someone who will adopt her, he said, making sure she understands that point. Contact me on the radio if you need me. Fort Alness, Refugee Construction Zone, May 3rd, 2025. Selena is standing by the internal base fence, watching what is going on outside. In the nearby field within the Alness perimeter, she is watching these big monster machines tearing down trees and clearing out a large area. She is continually amazed by the wonders these people have. Back where she is from, it would take days if not weeks to clear out that much land and hundreds of men to do it. They did it in so much faster and with just only a few dozen of them. As Selena watches those soldiers work, she hears a voice coming from behind her. She turns around and sees Major Sharpe arriving. Hello there, Selena. Mind if I join you? He asked her, wanting to get permission first. He does not want to put her through any more stress than she has already been through. Not knowing what to say, she nods her head shyly. Her body locks up, feeling insecure next to him. Not that she is afraid, but, honestly, she does not know how she should feel. But it is just not fear. He walks up to her side and just stands there. For a few silent moments, both just look at the machines and engineers working. Sharpe is the first to speak, breaking the unsettling silence. Do you want to know what they are doing? They are clearing up that area, she said quietly to his question. Are you going to do something there? Yes. You know those refugees that we brought? Sharpe responded. We decided that they could stay here, for their safety of course. We're clearing an area outside the base, so they could move freely. Yeah, but why? She asked, confused by the motivation. Sharpe replied. Well, we can't just keep them in the base. This place will end up like a prison and was not just going to send them back out there. He stops being interrupted. She looks up at him, but her eyes refuse to look at him directly. No, I mean, she tries to say, struggling to say what she wants to say. Why did you help them? This has been bothering her since the day she was freed by him. She thought she was going to become his personal slave. Just like all the other men she has seen and been with, a part of her is still struggling to believe that she is free again. Sharpe looked very intimidating at first, killing those slavers. She has not seen war, but it was clear he knew how to fight, and he is good at it. The men he fought were highly trained Imperial mercenaries. On top of that, the equipment he wears and the clothes that blend in with the forests, the strange-looking weapons. It is the law of nature. Her father told her many times that the strongest controls and dominates the weak. If you do not rule from strength, then someone stronger will always come and control you. Everything in life is about the power of strength, and if you can, you should before your enemy's controls and dominates you. Sharpe looks at her confused, trying to figure out how to answer the question. He then put his arm on his side as he thinks. Well, they are not our enemy and they needed help. We are at war with the Empire, not its people. But we are not here to conquer this world, just to help and protect. Sharpe thinks for a moment, just realizing the meaning of the questions. And about you. Sharpe gets onto his right knee and places his hand on her shoulder. He then looks directly in her eyes, smiling, trying to show some positive support however struggling at it. She looks a little nervous, still trying to understand him. What those 4 men were doing to you was wrong, said Sharpe. There is no excuse to enslave a person, especially a child. I don't know what children do here, but where I am from, kids about your age should be playing with dolls, picking on boys, playing sports, watching TV, and getting good grades in school. You are not a prisoner, and you can leave whenever you want, Sharpe continues. When we figure out where your home is, we try to get you there. But as long as you are with us, no one will hurt you again like that. I will personally guarantee it. Hearing that made her heart feel warm. All she wanted to hear was that she is safe now and the horror is over for good. Okay. She looks at him and sees him smiling. Hey, Sharpe said, I got you a gift. She watches Sharpe pull a box from his bag. It is a long but thin box. Suddenly he hands it to her. Open it. She opens the box and sees a dress in it. It is white with yellow flowers around it. It is a sundress, Sharpe said. His hand goes behind his head as he looks embarrassed. I didn't know what to get. I am not good with clothes. The army picks out my clothes usually. It is okay if you don't want to wear it. She looks back at the sundress and thinks it is pretty. Can I wear it though? Sharpe smiles. Of course. It is yours. So, you don't have to keep wearing baggy military clothes or rags. She then starts taking off her clothes to change. She then feels Sharpe's hand on her arm. Hold on, Sharpe said in somewhat of a panic. Not in the open like this. Come to my tent, and you can change in private. She had to think about it for a moment, but then she realized what she was doing. I am sorry, she mumbles as she starts to cry a little. Sharpe holds her close, not knowing what to do. Let us go to my tent. Then you can show off your dress. Sharpe stands back up. After that, we can get something to eat at the mess hall. I can get something special from the head cook. He owns me anyway, he said with a chuckle, thinking of a memory. She begins to realize she can trust him and these people. Maybe even more than that. She smiles, tearing up a little and hugging his leg. She wants to say thank you for helping, but the words do not form. But the message is clear. A few moments pass, and both start to his tent. As they walk, she holds onto his pant leg, holding onto it tight. Oh yeah, Sharpe said. Tomorrow we are heading out to Italica, 1000. Rory and Lelei need to sell some dragon scales. You're welcome to come, Sharpe offers her. She nods, accepting the offer. The desire to learn who he and these people are, why they are so different from the kingdoms of this world, and maybe, just maybe they could help her people.